Hey everyone, let me kill the music there. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable, an impromptu show. We decided to do a show on Tuesday. It wasn't normally our show on Tuesday, and we usually do. It's not a live stream. It's usually as everybody knows, we do a pre-record. Tuesday's a pre-record. It's a podcast. A lot of people from the podcast are asking me what's going on because we haven't been consistent lately. They don't watch the live stream, so they don't know. And I don't have time to explain to 1,000 different people what's going on. So just kind of aggravated with that, too. That's another thing that's just kind of aggravating. I'm just, they'll ask me something. And typically it's in the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook. The numbers aren't going. What's going on here? You may have to. Is it running fine?
Looks like it so far.
Okay, if you guys have any issues coming in, we were having a hard time getting started here because it stormed real bad, and so it just seems like it always messes with the internet. Oh boy! So, what ended up happening? I had somebody tell me today, that why are you not doing this? You're not doing that. And this guy, he messages me pretty often, and we're friends. I mean, we've been friends for a few years. But he never watches the live stream, never. Had no idea what was going on, and he was messaging me all this banal whatever, and I was in the middle of dealing with some stuff, and I'm like, dude, I can't answer your questions right now. And then he wanted to know everything that was going on, everything that had happened, the play-by-play, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I don't. And, they only listen to the podcast, and then they go to the Paranormal Roundtable group, and God bless them, they don't know what's going on. And then they're telling me, well, just let it go. Just block and delete. That's not an option. Okay, y'all people already know. If you're here in this live stream, you know. You already know. You can't just block and delete these people. So there's nothing we can do. It is what it is. But I'm really getting tired of the people from the podcast who aren't paying attention, and then they want to give their opinion about just ignoring people and blocking people. This is not a normal situation. See, what people don't understand, too, is that we do block and we do ignore and we do delete. We ignore about 90% of the trolling that goes on. So what you're seeing is actually a small fraction. It's refreshing now. So what you're seeing is a small fraction of what's happened to us. But this here situation has just gotten so bad. It's gotten so out of hand. But we're not going to talk in depth about it tonight. That's not why we're here. We're trying to have some sort of consistency, some sort of continuity. Says I can't hear anything. I don't know. Somebody see if the sound is correct.
Yeah, it sounds fine.
I don't know why you can't hear anything. I'm sorry if you can. I don't know what that is because, but just to we're letting the chat fill up a little bit and get a few hundred people, a couple hundred people, something before we start, because everybody will be like, oh, you started without me and telling stories, whatever, because this one is an impromptu chat. I wish I could get this thing set up. Hold on, folks. I'm trying to weird. Yeah, it doesn't want to stay. So, yeah. So that being said, we're going to do a Q&A, and I got some stories to tell. The episode we were going to do for the pre-record was going to be international cryptids, basically. I actually did the foreword for Kenny Irish's book, International Cryptids, which I thought was pretty good. It's kind of a condensed version of like a bunch of different cryptids. It's very similar to Ryan Edwards, except I think with Ryan, he took a more scientific approach, and I think Kenny took a more mythological approach. He talks about the mythology and all that. They're both pretty good books. If you go and check those guys out, they got pretty good books. So shout out to those guys. Of course, Barton Nunley's in here. Barton Nunley's probably one of the best, if not the best author for my money. I think he's, check out his show, Humanoids with Barton Nunley. And what else? Oh, we're still trying to. We were in the process of trying to release a board game that my wife actually created. I thought it was pretty cool, and we tried it. They tested it. We got people interested in helping us get it done, but now all of our attention and our funds are going to have to go towards dealing with the situation. I don't know what's going to happen with this situation. These people, they like I said before, and I'll say it again, they don't work. I've been working all day, and I got to go back to work at what, midnight tonight?
Yeah.
So, and I got to go out and do stuff, and then I got to, get home and then give somebody a ride to work and then pick another guy up and take him home because they don't have vehicles. So, I'll get home about 7:30, 8, go to sleep and wake up about noon or 1 and start all over. Today I slept in. I slept till 1:30. So, didn't get to work out last night like I wanted to. I was too exhausted. But this stuff is exhausting, man. It is. Working constantly and dealing with the show and dealing with these people. And we just don't have time to do a pre-record. We just didn't get a chance to. The other night when we were here, Tony had to leave. He had to go to work. And Anthony had to get up in the morning, and I had to do a bunch of stuff, my guard checks, and we just didn't have time to do a pre-record the episode. And then Anthony wasn't going to have time to edit it. So you guys would at least have your Tuesday. We had a couple of hours, and I said, well, let's just go to the studio and let's talk. And let's talk about what we talk about, what we do. Let's get back to what PRT is all about and what it means to be Paranormal Roundtable. I'm tired of fighting these people, and sometimes I feel like I'm doing it by myself. I mean, Abe went live today and said some stuff, but it's just, I guess I shouldn't say. I mean, Hellbent Holler said some things last night on their show too, but it's just, their main focal point is me. They want me. I'm the one that released the Social Blade thing. I'm the one that's making people uncomfortable because I'm telling the truth. They don't like it. They don't like it. So waiting here, let's see, we got about 250 people. Anybody got some stories you want to throw out there or get us started on something? Let's get going. I mean, I got a ton of information. I mean, I got story after story after story, but I just been holding on to them. And they come in. I'm not gonna lie, they've slowed down during this whole mess. It hasn't been like a trickle because it was like a flood before. Now it's more like a river, but keeps flowing. See if we can get 300 people in here. So that's what's going on, man, and it's unfortunate that these people have all the time to tee off on me and think of schemes and ways to plot and scheme or whatever. I don't have that kind of time. I don't. If I had their kind of time, this would be over. I'll tell you right now. If I didn't have, I figure with what I probably am up 18, 19 hours a day. I'd say, 2/3 of that is taken up by work?
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have to work and you could just be like a part-time secretary for your dad or something, and like somebody we know, then yeah, I mean, you'd have a lot more time to dedicate to this. Or if you were disabled in the line of duty as a security guard and just lived off the government, but did boots on the ground stuff, yeah, like what's his face, you'd have plenty of time. Don't have to work.
Yeah, it must be nice. But that's kind of what the whole country is doing right now. You got like a third of the country propping up the other 2/3 of the country that doesn't want to work. They don't want to work. And then they're like, oh, well, whatever. So what do we got here? Somebody said something about Dogman standing on a balcony. There's a couple stories that I've heard go around like that. I think I told one on the show. If it was a Dogman, I think it was a Dogman. And then somebody messaged us about that and said that they saw one in an abandoned building. So I don't know, Jitesh, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, which one you're talking about. Or is there another one that's going around now? Because, see, Texas doesn't really have Dogman because there's a food desert here. Did y'all know that? Wow. I didn't either until some stupid person said that. Apparently there's no food to eat for them here. It's all a giant desert.
Yeah, there's definitely no cattle or boar in Texas. That's a big old lie.
Oh.
There's no deer either. We're all just starving out here.
Okay. You're not gonna like that. Work problem, folks. So how do you want to play that? Get M to go cover if you can get her to cover.
Oh, she texted saying she's not available tonight.
I thought she was coming back tonight.
Yeah, and she said after tonight she's available. Great timing, dude. Great timing.
Okay. Liberty says I went to the conference and starved to death.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Yeah, I don't know what to do, man. If I mean, midnight to 6. I mean, I don't know what to do. Somebody calling off work. It's very frustrating. I mean, they've already been off 2 days and they calling off again, and they're not sick. So I'm kind of not happy about that. But okay, well, I guess if not a whole lot of people are going to join us today, then I guess that's it. We're going to get started. I don't know what's going on, but we were pushing almost to 300 to get going here. This counter's been weird too. It's been wonky, dude. I don't know what's going on, man. It's just like something all the time. Do you have any Dogman or Bigfoot stories in Georgia? Yeah, I do. For sure, Georgia, yeah. I didn't bring a list of them with me, but I mean, I don't have anything recent that I've gotten, I think, out of Georgia. Texas is such a food desert. Why they have the best barbecue. Yeah, that guy, he'll do and say anything for $1. So he probably figured he could hurt me somehow. He was doing it even back then. So I've uncovered a whole bunch of stuff. So how about vampires? I got a couple. I got, Fort Benning has military-linked werewolves. What's going on with that, KD7? What do you know about that? Giant insect stories. Miguel, you're in luck because I actually got a giant praying mantis story. There was another story. Oh, I got a story from a diver. Okay. And this happened off the coast of, I think it was Argentina. I think he said it was Argentina. But anyway, I got that one's crazy. I need to write that one because I was going to tell that one too. It's not a thank you for that donation, Jitesh. It's greatly appreciated. That story is not a cryptid story, but it's creepy as hell. I'm telling you, it was not cool. I mean, I was sitting there listening, and I was like, this is crazy. Let me get that one on there. And the guy's from Argentina, and I believe it was Argentina. Let me check. Let me make sure I'm on the. Okay. What happened?
He'll be there tonight.
Yeah.
He said he could work it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can do it. Let me get this going here. So, anyways, this guy, he told me a story, and it's actually pretty cool. He gave me a story about a chupacabra type creature that he had seen on his property. Well, it's not his grandfather's property. So after he told me that story, he told me a story that he's a diver. He goes like diving or whatever, like snorkeling. And he went to this place where he always goes. He dives down, and he can hold his breath for a pretty good amount of time. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty crazy story. But anyway, demonic attacks. You guys just throwing stuff out? Or are you guys wanting to send some stories here? Does anybody want to tell a story? Dogman or Bigfoot in the Lake Whitney area? I can remember any off the top of my head. I don't think so. Anything from the Texoma area? You talking about Lake Texoma? Because man, oh yeah, for sure. Vampire story, please. I have a couple vampire stories because we were thinking about doing one at the end of the month, and we were going to do some more research on it and try to get a couple more because we had three. But I don't know. Like I said, when you get a story, you can't just automatically. Most of the time, especially back in the day, people wouldn't say, they wouldn't just come to you and go, "Oh, I got a vampire story." They would just tell you, "I saw something weird, and what do you think of this?" But people give you stories all the time about all kinds of weird stuff. And a lot of times they don't really tell you what it is because they don't know what the hell it is. And yeah, because a lot, I don't really like too much when someone says, you know, "Oh, yeah, you know what? I got a story. I saw a gargoyle." You don't even know, and they start telling you, and I mean, that's their opinion that it's a gargoyle. And then you got to, sometimes you hear the story and you got to tell them, "Look, I don't know that that's what that is. I don't know that that's exactly what you saw. I mean, you say it's what you saw." Thank you, Larry, for that donation. Give Larry the plug.
Oh yeah, so Larry Fisher owns Fisher and Sons Roofing. He's been a long time supporter of us, and he has crews who prioritize any jobs that are for him. He pays them well. He treats them better. They do better work. They do faster work. If you go with someone else, you're gonna be on their time. If you go with Larry Fisher, it's gonna be done on your time. So if you have hail damage, if you know anyone who has hail damage, get them in contact with Larry Fisher of Fisher and Sons Roofing, and he'll get you taken care of way better than the other guy.
Oh, these are not as good when they're hot. Ugh. So, Artistic Bunny, thank you for that donation. It says, any backwards feet stories? No, I don't have any of those. Matt Acosta, any stories from Mescalero area? Yeah, I've told about 10 of those. They're scattered throughout the lives, and some of them are on the podcast episodes that also show up on YouTube. I can tell you this: that is a weird place. And most recently, when I was talking about the Bear Man, there was one that came out of that area, the Ruidoso area, and but it was actually on the highway. Let me take a look at this. And you know what? That's a good one. I can probably tell that one right now because that one I got. Oh, I know it sounds like the other day, but that was when was that? Like when David Weatherly was on? That's what,
Oh wow.
before the conference, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how long ago was that? I mean, that was. But somebody gave me a story. But let me look. Let me jog my memory about it. Check my notes. Like I said, folks, we were sitting there, and it's like I felt bad that we didn't do the normal Tuesday offering. We throw out there for the. It is a what do you call it? A pre-record. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of weird stuff in New Mexico. What is that?
Dude, what?
That's so
Y'all
loud.
can't hear this, but there's like some smooth jazz playing outside the window or something. It's bizarre. I looked over at the computer because I thought like is like a pop up or something playing there.
Maybe it's a hit squad. Gee, I hope they don't come hurt us.
Playing that funky New Orleans
I'm terrified.
smooth jazz.
Oh my god, I'm so scared. Oh, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
It's that Prince All Voodoo Priest music.
Well, you go around saying that you are and then get offended when somebody says that's what you are. I mean, you had a company called Voodoo Incorporated or some crap. I mean, what do you expect, dude? Nobody's supposed to call you out on it though. A hard gangster. I want to say I'm trying to figure out the highway where it was at. The highway is called 380. Is it 380? I can't even read that. Can you read that?
This is in New Mexico, you said?
Yeah, it's in New Mexico, but that's it's by Lincoln.
Yeah, that's 380.
It's 380, and we've been on it multiple times. But if you go down, like if you cut down and go into Ruidoso, let me see it.
Mhm.
And then when you're coming back out, if you go the other direction. So I'm trying to remember the name of the place. Yeah, because if you go left, you go down into Ruidoso, and then if you go right, you go up. Or if you stay right, you go into Lincoln. And I got a gargoyle story that came out of Alamogordo a long time ago, and we told that one. Anyways, it was in between what this person told me. I was trying to remember the name of the highway. I think it's Highway 70, but it's in between Lincoln and it was what I think it was a bear man sighting. I know you can say it was a dog man, you can say werewolf, whatever. That's not really what I got. That's not the impression that I got. What I got was bear, but it was not a bear. And now we've heard stories of there's a place called Bear Creek right there outside of Ruidoso before you get to the city. You know, say city, it's a town. It's really a resort town mostly. You know, they have a casino there, Inn of the Mountain Gods, and they have the Billy the Kid, and then they have the Ruidoso Downs, which is the racetrack. And we had somebody tell us a weird story out of there too, out of the racetrack area, because we talked about it before. It's one of those areas where I think that it's like between there and Roswell, it's just a weird. It's an area of high strangeness. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in New Mexico. It's called the Land of Enchantment for a reason. And it's like Robert Crider. He was on the show. We talked about it, and I think what happened with this story here was very compelling in the way that there were 3 people that witnessed it. One of them used to live in that area, Roswell area. Doesn't live there anymore. Hadn't lived there in 20 years, but has a friend that still lives there in Roswell, and said, "I think I saw something that my friend saw." Now, this is an interesting case. I'm going to tell you why. Because there were 3 women that saw this creature. 2 of them didn't get a really good look at it. The passenger side person got a really good look at it, and it was on the other side of Lincoln. Like if you go down Ruidoso, like I said, you go left, you go to 380, and then you keep going on, I believe it's 70. Then you hit Lincoln. So this was past Lincoln before you take the highway and goes up, whatever, into the, like, I think there's like some missions up there or something like that. But anyway, they saw what they thought was a bear, except it was walking on its hind legs. As they got closer and they drove past it, it didn't do anything. It didn't. It was just a brief encounter, but it's kind of interesting because later on she was talking to a friend of hers, the lady that saw it, and she said that friend still lived in the Roswell area for like 10 years after she had moved out of there. What she said, and she ended up moving to Albuquerque. The friend ended up eventually moving too, and then she moved into West Texas, like near Alpine or something. I can't remember exactly, but anyways, what they saw when they drove past this creature, I remember the description of it because it came on the heels of the one we had. We had Jenna Perry on the show, and she talked about the bear man that she saw. Dave Weatherly came on, and he talked about the bear man cases, and we covered that. And then, of course, Eric Palacios came on, and we talked about it too, because there is a history of what they call the bear man here in Central Texas. That is, to me, something that is distinctly different than the dog man. I don't believe that they're the same thing because the descriptions look like a bear and one looks like a wolf. I mean, you can't. One has a little more rounded ears. One has pointy ears. Now, if you go by, can we? It's hot here. I don't know. Or it's more humid, I guess. If you go by the descriptions that we get of dogman in the Central Texas area, a lot of them they just look timber wolfish. I mean, you're dealing with something that looks like a wolf. I mean, it really does. What I saw looks like a werewolf. The guy that I was hanging out with that night, my best friend at that time, we're still really good friends. He has not changed his story, and neither have I. You know, he got interviewed for the book, you know, and we didn't put that in the book. He's a preacher, and he still has his own, like, way that he looks at that. And I'm pretty close to the way he looks at it, but I don't know how, you know, like him, like, because we've talked about having him tell the same story, but he's one of those people that's kind of like, you talk it up. You know what I mean? But he didn't have a problem telling Anthony and my wife and everybody else. He's told Anthony now twice, but he told my wife the story on your brother at your brother's graduation.
Yeah.
And then he told the story with me at Taylor Sporting Goods. So shout out to those guys at Taylor Sporting Goods, guys and gals, nice people. But we were there together one day and we told the story. We had a little audience there, you know. But him, as far as Daniel telling that story, I was like, people were like, why didn't you have him tell it in the book? Well, it's the same story as mine with just a little different perspective, not much. And his mother always thought it was a devil, a demon, whatever. But what we saw looked extremely timberwolfish. Like if you put a timberwolf and just stood it up and then expanded the chest and turned it more like a man. Big, thick midsection, just big, huge, hulking thing. It was not a scrawny, rangy animal by any means. No means, nothing. There was, you know, no stretch of the imagination. But this creature that they saw, and I said, what is the closest type of bear? Now get this. Marisol was her name. I said, Marisol, let me ask you a question. What was the closest type of bear? She said, I did a search, and I looked up all these different types of bears, and she said the closest thing I could come up with, and get this, was a Kodiak bear.
Dang.
Now, a Kodiak bear, I said, do you know what you're saying? I was like, do you know what you're saying, woman?
Those things are like monsters.
You be lying. No, I didn't do that. And she just hangs up. I'm not going to talk to this guy. Now, I said, do you know what you're saying? I was like, that is a humongous bear. You know? And she's like, yeah, but it wasn't. She said a grizzly, you know how they're real bulky? And she said it wasn't. It was big, really big, but it was like a bear, but it was, you know, on its hind legs. And I said this. I said, maybe, because I know there's no Kodiak bears up there, but Bear Creek is named after like, you know, bears. And it's right there. It's not right there, but from where she was at, by about 30 miles. And I said, what do you think? You know, 30, 40 miles probably. And I said, you saw something that looked like a bear. I was like, there have been black bears in that area for a long time, sightings. Nothing that could even possibly come close to resembling a Kodiak. And I believe the last grizzly bear that anybody saw in that area was like in the 1920s or something like that. I believe that's what I read. And don't quote me. But so she says, yeah, and the thing is, she's like, it looked extremely tall. The girl in the back seat, and I say, girl, she's not a girl, she's a lady. She's a 22-year-old. That was the driver's daughter. And she said, I was with my friend and her daughter. The daughter saw it. They both agreed that it was 9 to 10 feet tall. And I said, you basically saw like a throwback bear, cave bear, right? And she's like, no. She said the legs, you know how you see a bear on video and stuff?
Yeah.
And she said they stand up, they kind of move funny with their legs. The legs are short.
Yeah, they kind of waddle.
Yeah, they waddle. She said this thing was walking like a man, and they were like, what is that? She thought it was a tree. You know, 'cause it was almost dark. She said it was just after dark, sundown, but still just a little bit of haze. And there's a lot of reports that come out of that time of night, okay? Because I think that's when these predators come out. But, you know, they're driving by it, They see this tall, lanky, leg-looking thing. And I say lanky. I don't know if that's the right words. That's not her words, but that's kind of what I gathered. What it was kind of like. It was tall, and you know. So I sent her pictures of werewolves and said, "What do you think of this? Does this look like something?" No, okay. Sent her pictures of bears, and I was like, "What do you think of that? Is that no?" And then she sent me back a picture of a Kodiak that was kind of standing up. But she said, if you did that and you made it stand straight up, and you expanded the chest out and the shoulders to make it look more man-like, the arms like a man's, and the legs more like a man's, but the backward bent kind of like hawk look at the hawks, legs. Not like the animal, the hawk. Everybody's always asking me about that. No. So what you're looking at is this werewolfish looking bear type creature. And so I asked her this question. I don't like to lead people, but I wanted to know. And so I said, Marty, so let me ask you one more question. I said, if you took a bear and a wolf and mixed them together with a man, would that be? And she said, yes, very much so. She talked to the woman that was driving, and they were just in a deep conversation, And she said that she got a quick look at it, and what she saw, she said it just looked like a nightmare, like this giant, the way she described it, demon, I mean, these are also Hispanic people, so they're going to think something,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but being Hispanic, I know a lot of Hispanic people just kind of go to that, like
Yeah, we're pretty superstitious.
Yeah. So what got me was the eyes too. They were glowing yellow, like a bright yellow. They were self-illuminated. When they drove past it, her friend that was in the back seat, the daughter of her best friend, and her daughter's kind of like her goddaughter. She said kind of like, so it's not, but she looked back, and she said when she turned to look back, this thing was looking at them, and the yellow eyes were still illuminated and looking right at her. So it wasn't one of those things where it was like the headlights illuminated it, because I got a story out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Somebody had given me a story, and they said, well, the eyes were illuminated, but it was probably the headlights that illuminated it. And I mean, you could say that's, Here's an interesting thing. A story I got recently out of Falk. Now, Falk is known for Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the Falk monster, and of course our colleague and friend Lyle Blackburn has done a ton of work on that particular incident, beast, whatever. And somebody said that they were driving a truck outside of Falk, Arkansas, and they saw something that ran across the road that was built and shaped like hyena-like, but when it got to the other side of the road, it jumped, and when it did, it kind of went back on all fours, but then stood up on its hind legs and turned and faced them. And the guy said it looked like a hyena. It even had spots and a mane like an African hyena, which was really weird. And I was just like, his name is Jared, and I was like, Jared, can you tell me exactly? And he said, dude, if you took a hyena and made it walk on all fours, he goes, and it was weird, though, because it just looked like a four-legged creature. The paws and the front legs did not have any kind of it didn't look like hands. It was just a four-legged animal, like a hyena, like a giant hyena, like really big.
Mm-hmm.
But when it got to the other side, kind of jumped across and then stood up. And he said he was just like, he was hauling butt, And it was right outside of Falk. And I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. It's really weird. I mean, when it turned and it looked at him, he said, I looked at it, got a good look at it. I was up in my cab in my truck, and he said it had, what looked like hands, And I was like, I said, but early, and I asked him, I said, earlier you said it didn't have. He goes, no, when it was running on all fours, it didn't have hands. But when it jumped across the road and turned around, then it had hands.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird.
That is so weird. Like retractable digits. I don't know. But the ladies that saw this one outside of Lincoln, and that's funny that somebody even asked me about that, because I know we got some more stories. We could go and do a whole, If we went back and took the other ones we've done out of that area, you could do an entire show, at least an hour-long pre-record on just the sightings that people get of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Me and Anthony saw a white, well, I think it was an elk. It was too big to be a deer. It jumped out in front of my truck, and it was just huge. I mean, it was white. You remember that, Anthony?
Yeah, I still don't know what it was.
It was weird. I said, and you were like, "How big is that deer?" I was like, "I think that's an elk." Just jumped right out in front of us, and it was all white, and it didn't have pink eyes either. It was like, it wasn't like an albinism. It didn't look like that because it had a little bit of brown toward the back of it. I think it was just white, but it had a huge rack of antlers on it, dude. I mean, for something to be that noticeable at night, you'd think predators would have been able to take it down before it got those big old horns on it, big old antlers on it. But I guess not. I mean, it's not saying that's supernatural, but that is weird. And so anyway, these people, they saw this bear-looking thing. It was black. They don't know that maybe it might have been a chocolate brown or something, but it was black because it was dark. And I said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Well, it was really black looking." And so people would be, the knee-jerk reaction would be, "Well, it was a black bear." No, I don't think so. I don't think it was a black bear because it had man-like qualities. And they said the snout was a little bit pointed for a bear. It wasn't as rounded as a bear's snout, but the ears weren't extremely pointed and they weren't straight up and down like some of these weird reports you get of the werewolf-looking creature. Oh, boy. So you got the bear man that's being seen here in Central Texas. Got another report of that not too long ago. And this one was outside of Blanco. Somebody that was driving, Devil's Backbone area. Very quick. It was the same. It was similar to this people's. But I'm going to add something to that story in a minute. We're going to come back to that one. But here's another one, since we're talking about the bear man. This one we just got about a month ago. Oh, wait. Right after the conference. How long was it ago? The conference? Oh, shoot. The conference almost 2 months ago now, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, crap.
What, another week? What
Yeah.
about maybe 10 days? It'd be like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise, man. Time's just going. It's just hauling butt. So this is weird. It says we have almost 400 viewers, but now the thing says 285.
Yeah, I don't know what YouTube's doing.
This I don't understand this wacky. But anyway, so Matt Acosta, thank you for that donation, and I appreciate you bringing up that. If anybody's got something from a certain region or story, if I have it, I can tell you. What I have loaded in the chamber is international cryptid stories, but we don't have to do those. I can save those for, a rainy day, which was today. But we can have it for another rainy day, and we can put it on the pre-record. Shout out to my Rangers that beat my Astros. See, the Astros and the Rangers, I love them both. I've been rooting for them both since I was a kid. Nolan Ryan played for both of them. He's one of my favorite players. And, I watching the Astros lose was sad last night, but I was excited for Texas to get back to the World Series.
Yeah.
So I was happy. And, but I was sad. I was sad for Altuve and Alvarez and all those guys, but then I was happy for the Rangers, And I hope that the Diamondbacks win tonight, and then we can play the Diamondbacks because I don't want to play the Phillies. Phillies would be they're on a mission, especially if they'd have faced the Astros from last. They'd have been on a mission.
Yeah.
But, the Rangers are very streaky, so hopefully they can close it and do it, and then we can bring another trophy back home to Texas, and I can have my two favorite baseball teams. And I kind of was pulling for the Rangers for one reason, because I wanted the Rangers to win a World Series, to finally get a World Series. I know they've turned it now into an interstate rivalry. Thank you, Kate, for that donation. You're always so generous.
Thank you so much.
And bless you, and pray for her too, folks. Pray for her, pray for Larry, pray for his business, pray for everybody that needs help. This rivalry, though, is only in the last, so many years because they put them in the same league and in the same division. One used to be in the American League, and this one used to be in the National League for like 40 years, and both of them. And then they just said, you know what? We're going to make them fight.
Yeah.
And they did. And in Game 6, it was a bench clear. Game 5 was a bench clearing big brawl. And it's, so there's now bad blood between my two favorite teams. But, just like last year, I watched the Cowboys dismantle the Bucs, in the playoffs. And I was happy the Cowboys won, but sad for the Bucs. The Bucks and the Red Sox are two of the only teams that I root for, and the Raiders. I'll root for them outside of Texas. I don't root for any teams in basketball outside of Texas. I'm all the Texas teams: Rockets, Spurs, Mavericks. They make them all play in the same division. I don't like that. But I like the Spurs are my favorite basketball team, and then the Mavericks and the Rockets are equal. Astros and Rangers, I like them both. I like the Longhorns and the Aggies. Everybody's like, you got to make a choice. I don't need to make a choice. I like them both. I like the Longhorns. I like the Aggies. I just don't like the Aggies fans whenever they win. They're really, really nasty to the Longhorns.
It seems like sometimes that they're more anti-Aggie. They're more anti-Longhorn than they are pro-Aggie. Like you'll see them at games where they're not playing the Longhorns, but you'll see the fans going like this, like, dude, the Longhorns
They were
aren't
playing
even
Oklahoma, and they were all.
They're
doing
not
that.
even in this equation,
Yeah.
dude. Do your thumbs up, gig 'em, whatever that is.
Yeah, and another thing too, like the Niners, like Joe Watson. Shout out to Joe Watson, good friend of mine. My friend Adam, that's his uncle. They're good people. We grew up together. Their last name's Watson, but they're Mexicans. It's weird. They got a Anglo last name, but they're Mexican. And Joe, he's posting about the Cowboys all the time. And finally one day I said, "What is your team?" Because for 5 years I watched him talk trash about the Cowboys and never knew his team. His team was the 49ers. I said, well, that makes sense. You're a 49er fan. Why don't you ever just talk good about the Niners? Why is it always just hating on the Cowboys? Because I thought he was just a Cowboy hater. Like, some people don't like football or baseball or basketball, so they go against the team that's local so they can be like, like a defiant. And people like that. My mom was like that. She wasn't like a sports fan. She just didn't like the Cowboys or anybody my dad liked. Just because she didn't like him, But which is understandable. For me, I grew up on certain teams. I'm still an Oilers fan. They're gone, long gone. I like the Texans, but they don't ever do crap. And if they do, they get rooked. It's like Dallas. Anyways, enough of that. So that's sports, folks. But let me tell you something. Here's a weird thing. Speaking of sports, I got a ghost story for you. We're talking about this. So there's a small town, and I was talking to a coach that used to coach a basketball team in a small town up in it was Colorado. I'm thinking of the suburb. Let me see if I can find the name of it. I stayed there one time, and I can't remember and I had a ghost story when I stayed there one time. Dang it, what is it called? Fort Collins. I don't even need to look it up. Got it, Fort Collins. This guy, he coached basketball years ago in Fort Collins, back in the 60s. I guess he was one of their basketball coaches or whatever. And I can't remember if he said it was high school or if it was kids or what, but the gymnasium where they used to go and practice and everything. And he said he's an older guy, and his son actually told me this story, but his dad he's getting up there in age, but he's not one of those people that's like you see some people, they're just like, ooh, he's not that kind of guy. He's like Chuck Norris, still got his faculties and everything about him. And he said, dude, there was a ghost, literally. The story was that back in the 50s at that particular gym, the gymnasium, whatever, which I think is tore down now. But he said that there was somebody who had died there. They're literally, he was a really tall kid. This is the story. And his heart stopped.
Oh, no.
Which, if you're really big and you had like a condition or whatever, sometimes your heart's not as strong. And so what ended up happening, his heart stopped. So for years, the kids that would go there to practice or whatever, and I can't remember if he said his dad was the high school coach or if he was he coached like kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was a coach for like several years. And he said that what happened was they were in there and they were practicing, and he said, dude, weirdest thing. He said the first time something happened, and he said it was over the course of a few years when he would do this. He said he looks up and he sees, and this is no bull crap, and you want to talk about some freaky stuff. He's like, I was closing down the gym, and it was me and another guy, the assistant, I guess. Or maybe he was the assistant. I can't remember if he was the assistant, but he said that he sees a ball go from one end of the court to the other and make it in the basket. And he goes, and dude, it was the weirdest thing. His son was telling me a story, but he was in the background. He said it was the weirdest thing ever. He's like, I could not believe what I was looking at. He goes, I saw it. And he goes, I couldn't believe it. And he goes, and I looked at my buddy, and I was like, did you just see that? And he was like, yes. And so they just left, right? And he said that another day he came in and they heard dribbling, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, and it sounded like another team was there practicing. I don't know what was going on. And he said, I opened the gym and it was locked. And as soon as it was me and two coaches, he said, as soon as we opened the door, the sound stopped. Now, I was talking the other day to a coach. Well, not a coach. She used to be a PE teacher when I was a kid. And I saw her on Facebook and I said something, hey, because she had just gotten out of the hospital. And she was a PE coach back when I was a kid in Rockdale, Texas. And she says, I heard you had, we started kind of talking or whatever, because I hadn't seen her in forever. She was one of my PE teachers. She was nice. But she was a teacher and a PE teacher. You know what I'm talking about? Like she taught reading or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she was also the PE teacher, PE coach, whatever you want to call it. And so she was telling me that she had a ghost encounter in the gymnasium of the elementary there. Now we're talking about basketball gymnasiums or whatever. And she said that the night before Halloween, get this, they were setting up, and I remember this, they had a haunted house that you could go to when I was a kid. So my dad worked at the power plant there, and there used to be a lot of people that were from the power plant, and you'd have kids from all over the place that would live there because they were there because of the power plant, right? So there were a few kids, like I met a kid from Brazil, you know, different types of people. And so the night before, they were putting together the haunted house, right? So I remember that day, it was like a school day or something, and they were like, oh, you can't go to the gym because they have the haunted house going on tonight. I said, okay. So I went, and like it was spooky and scary and whatever, but I always had a really creepy, uneasy feeling about that gymnasium. So when she told me, just having gotten out of the hospital for her surgery, she said, you got a show about the paranormal? I said, yeah. And she goes, I haven't seen it yet, but my daughter told me about it. Her daughter's my age. And she says, let me tell you something. She's like, when I was coaching this PE there, you guys thought it was all parachutes and, you know, dodgeball. She goes, I was creeped the hell out in that place. And so she told me a couple creepy stories about that gymnasium. Let me get to this. I'll tell you in a minute. So let me get back to this other guy's story. So this guy up there in Colorado, he tells me, he says, dude, him speaking for his dad, he said a couple weird things. Now, the weirdest thing that ever happened to him, and he was like, dude, he said, I was walking. Oh, this is kind of creepy, okay? This is kind of a creepy one. So he's walking, he says, and I'm closing down the gym, and there was a guy that was a janitor that came, and his name was James something. I don't remember his last name. But he told me the guy's name, but it's not important. He comes in there, and he's doing the cleaning, whatever, and his buddy, he was on the other side, and they were going and getting all the balls and putting them up or whatever after the practice. And he says, I look through the bleachers, and under the bleachers, I go like that, and I do a double take, and there's a kid or somebody ducking down behind the bleachers. And he's like, and he goes, and I look, and I see the eyes of this, what should have been, well, thank you, that one guy. Says the Phillies were up 3-2. Dang, I hope they lose. I don't want them going back. I want my Rangers to play the Diamondbacks. So anyway, he says, I look, and he goes, and I see these eyes, and they're shining like kind of white. You know, not normal.
Yeah.
And he said that it looked like it was a kid holding like a backpack or something. And he was like, what the hell? So he goes around, you know, and this is years ago, right? Back in those days, gym coaches would be like, what the F are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. And if they have to give you a paddling, you just got to paddle in, because I got corporal punishment many times, okay? Not capital punishment. That's something completely different. Corporal punishment means they spank you. I used to get what they called licks. Y'all, you didn't have to deal with that. They gave us licks.
Yeah, they
and the
phased
gym
that out
coaches
by the
didn't
time I
give
was
a
in,
crap.
I think by the time I was in first grade, they phased that out. So
Yeah, so you got lucky.
yeah,
But then it raised a whole generation of turds.
yeah,
So anyway, but then it could be bad too, because some teachers would just do it ridiculously. I mean, they shouldn't have been doing what they did.
yeah.
So anyway, he went around the back of the bleachers, and he looks, and he doesn't see a solid being like he thought what he had seen. He just sees like a wispy image moving like this, like a pillar of like a cloud, a pillar that's kind of cylindrical looking. Well, he didn't say cylindrical, but he said it was like oblong. That was the word he used. And it went around the corner, and he goes to the other side of the bleachers, and he sees it, and then it just goes through the doors and is gone. And then he's like, there's about a foot, you know, off the ground.
There's never anything good that goes on underneath the bleachers of
Yeah, of anywhere, you know, yeah.
anywhere. It's always just like kids
doing things
stuff they're
they
not
shouldn't have
supposed to
been
be doing.
doing, smoking something.
Yeah.
Crazy. Hey, Charles Hamill, how you doing? So Tracker C in here. So what's crazy though is that's not even the weirdest thing that ever happened there. He said the weirdest thing that ever happened was this one kid who asked a question because somebody had pushed somebody from behind in the locker room. And he said this has happened a couple times. And then he said that there was a kid that said, hey, and he made some kind of comment about the ghost. He said something about, I don't give a crap about this ghost. Let it do something. No sooner did he do that to turn to run, and he tripped, fell, and he broke his knee.
Huh.
And he said it looked like he tripped, like something tripped him. So anyway, I guess it was like a. I'm thinking the way he was describing it, it wasn't the high school team. It was like some sort of intramural league or something. But he coached for a long time, and because they would play other local kids, so I don't know exactly what it was or whatever. But he did it for years. He coached and boys and girls teams. So I guess I don't know that maybe it was the high school. But anyway, they told me the story, and that was a couple months old. But I thought that would be interesting if we ever have anything that comes up. Well, talking to one of my old PE teachers, something did come up, and she said that the gymnasium there was haunted as hell. She said, "I'm gonna tell you right now." She's like, "Get this now." I noticed when I was a kid that sometimes I'd be there and I would get creeped out. Like we'd be in line, and I remember this, and it's something that was a memory that kind of came back to me when she started talking about it. And sometimes you'll be like, maybe it is a memory, or maybe you're thinking that is something more than it is because somebody's telling you. But I'm pretty sure that this is a real memory because I remember like standing there in line, and I remember there was a couple of my friends. One of them was named David. He was one of my best friends, and we were like always talking and stuff. So we're standing there, and we're getting ready to go because right after PE was lunch for me at that time. So we're getting ready to go to the lunchroom or whatever, and we're talking, and I look over, and of course, like I'm in fourth grade. I think I was in fourth grade. I was in fourth grade, and I saw, like, I don't know what it was. I saw something move between the two. There's like two, like changing rooms or what you want to call them, whatever, like where you go, you get changed or whatever. And I saw something move. I didn't know what it was. It just looked like a short, like black shadow and anyway, it didn't make me register that it could have been anything other than like a trick of my eyes. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I wasn't like, oh, no. But when she said what she saw, that one time she went to the back to the restroom area, which is like there's a changing room, right? And it was something that was right there, like right there. And it was like she said it was dark in there. And she goes to turn on the light, and she goes, she couldn't even get the light to come on. And she sees something move in the darkness, like something that's darker than the darkness.
Oh, no.
And then she sees like red eyes. And she said that she saw them blink. Like you can see them blink. And she's like, red eyes blinking in the darkness. And she's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. So she took off. And then she said one time when she got this really, really overwhelming feeling that something was in there with her. And she heard something, not breathing, but what did she say? Oh, it was like a heartbeat. She said she could hear it in her head. So she thought, man, what is going on? Like, and I told her, I said, well, that could be a sign of high blood pressure. You're feeling that, you know. She's like, no. It was like I could hear it, you know. There was an assistant coach that would work with her, and she came in, and they were talking. Or no, she was the main gym teacher. This is the assistant, because she taught reading and PE. And she said that this woman comes in, and she's like, do you hear that? Hold on, stop. You know, they both got quiet, and they heard it, like a boom, boom, like a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it happened on several occasions. That was so weird. And then one day, they had what we called little dribblers. Little dribblers was like the little basketball kids for little kids, whatever.
Yeah.
And we practiced there sometimes, or we would practice at the middle school, and then we would have games there at the middle school or the high school. And so when I was in Little Dribblers, I was on a team called the Blues. That was pretty dumb because that year it was blues, reds, yellows, and greens. Very creative. Yes, very creative.
That sounds like gangs more than kids' basketball teams.
We didn't know at the time about Crips and Bloods and all that. We didn't know anything about that.
Well, it was your parents' responsibility to know
they're
that.
supposed to teach you that in a small town in Texas? Like, you're like, well, you better not be going out dressed like that. You're going to, you on the Blues, huh? Oh, you on the Blues. You better be on the Blues. I don't know. But anyway, there was the blues, reds, yellows, and greens. That was the name of the teams. And I remember a couple years later, there were enough kids that we had 2 more teams. And it was like, I think we had yellows, blues, reds, greens, purples, and like orange or something. It was really ridiculous. We got the primary colors, we had the secondary colors. So what ended up happening, I remember going and doing the little dribblers or whatever. And sometimes when you were there in that particular and you'd be practicing, like you would see things in the corner of your eye. And there was a kid that I used to practice with, there used to be on my team. And he was always like, he was just like one of the best players on our team. He was very athletic. His name was Kendall. And I never forget, he got spooked there one day. And like he said that something was standing there watching him on one side of the bleachers. And when somebody threw the ball, it like hit him in the face. And he was so spooked and so freaked out that he could not play there. So I remember we went to the championship that year of my 4th grade year, the intramural, the little dribblers. And we played like every Saturday or something like that. And I think we played like Saturday, and there was like a tournament. We played like these 2 tournaments that helped decide who was going to go to the playoffs, and it was like Saturday, Sunday. But when we played there, he played terrible. And then he quit going. Like he quit showing up when we played there.
Yeah.
And I just remember that specifically. And so I was telling her, and I was like, do you remember? And she was like, yeah, I remember that. And so she wasn't our coach. She coached another team. But it was pretty, I don't know, it was pretty weird feeling. Like you would always get a weird feeling. Like you'd be standing in line, get ready to walk out of there. So one of the kids that was walking out of there one day tells this gym teacher that something grabbed her by her shirt. And she thought it was another kid. Turns around and she's the last in the line. There's nobody there. So this woman tells me that. And she says, yeah. And I don't know, man. It's just, it's really weird. It's a really weird thing. She claims that one night, whenever she was locking up, like when she got done with basketball practice, whatever, that the same thing happened, like the guy up in Colorado, that she heard the basketballs bouncing. And it was her and 2 other people, a guy and a girl. They were coaches. And they were like, what the hell? And they turn around and they look in the window. There's nothing there. And they're like, let's get out of here. So they just took off. They didn't even go back in.
So they have ghosts who are balling.
Balling, yeah.
Ball is life.
But she had told me some really weird stuff, man. Another time she goes up there and she's driving by. She had gone to go get something to eat with her husband, and she's driving by, and she sees the light on in the gymnasium. And she's like, what the hell? The janitors must have left the light on. So she pulls in there. And she gets out and she goes up there and she opens it up, and her and her husband walk around. You look over, there's nothing, no one there. So they turn the lights on. The next day, the principal says, hey, were you guys here late last night? You know, whatever. And she's like, well, yeah, because the lights were on. He goes, well, the lights were on this morning. I was just going to tell you to turn them off. She goes, we drove by and they were on. So we turned them off. So that happened a couple times to the point where the principal, she was like, well, and just whatever, you know, like nothing you can do. You know what I mean? Like they just gave up. They're like, whatever. But that was a weird place. That was a weird whatever. And now you know as well as I do the old high school in Taylor, that became the middle school where I went to middle school.
Yeah.
It's now being used as weird. I don't know. It's kind of weird. They have like a bar there or something, right?
Yeah, I think they kind of chopped it up. Like the old band hall is Plowman's now, that restaurant we like, and then the gym is like a public, like you can rent it out for events, and then there's like an area where they turned it into like little, I don't know, like a bar, like a taco place or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they sell tacos there.
Yeah,
and then the band hall, of course, is Plowman's, and we got a story about the crawler from a waiter there. So it was pretty cool. One of the things I remember about the gymnasium there in Taylor, the middle school where I went to, which was the high school. It says on there Taylor High, you know, at the front of it. It's on 7th Street, right? 7th Street?
yeah.
And one of the things I remember about that, hey, Werewolf, what are you doing, man? Yeah, they are creepy. It is. It's very creepy. And I remember there being like a presence, let's put it that way. And people would see something that looked like a janitor in the restrooms, but it was a janitor that looked like he was from some another time. And people would say all the time that they would see, and I may have seen this. I remember going to the restroom one time, and there was another kid there and I went to school with. His name is Seth. It's not important. It's Seth. I believe it was Seth Miller. Seth Miller, if you're listening, he lives in Mississippi. Shout out to you. But I remember both of us being in the restroom at the same time, and we saw a janitor that came in whistling. And I remember, I think it was Seth because I remember talking about it at a homecoming football game later on. And I remember he was there, and I was like talking to him. I said, "Was it you and I that were there, and you were in the restroom, and like you know?" And he said, "Yeah." So I think it was him. I'm pretty sure. So we see this like guy come in, and I just thought he was a new janitor, but I never saw that guy again. So my friend Randy Chakowski, who I went to school with, another friend of mine, we were talking about it one day, and we were because me and him lived across the that little bitty road right there is like that little drive, and then you're on 10th Street or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because it takes up 2 whole blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Then or 9th Street, is it 9th Street or 10th Street? I'm still not sure where your dad lives.
I think that's 9th.
9th Street. Okay, so that's where me and Randy lived, and I lived right across from him for about a year. I lived right there by the middle school.
Oh, just real quick, I just realized you know what's so strange and funny about the placement of the old middle school is that it's 1 block away from the old insane asylum.
Insane asylum, yeah.
I never put 2 and 2 together, and I thought how funny that was.
Mm-hmm. They were on the same street.
Yeah.
2 blocks away.
Yeah, just 2 blocks down from the middle school on the same street. Like you have the kids over here, and then you have insane asylum like 2 block, maybe 1 block down on the same street.
Well, yeah, because I told you what happened to us. Me, Daniel Robles, Daniel Henderson, Randy Chakowski, and then we all went and we looked. I think it was them 3 and maybe Theodore was there with us. We were all like a little group of kids, like not little kids. We were like 14 or something. It was like the year before I saw the Dog Man. And we looked in the whatever. It might have been Clay, another friend of ours. In fact, I know it was him. He looked in there, and he sees something move in there. And then we all looked. I squinted. I didn't see anything. But as soon as I moved back like that, my friend from Rockdale, Keith, was there, and he looked in, and he's like, "Dude!" And he backed up, and then everybody took off running in different directions because it was the old insane asylum, and it was boarded up and it was closed up.
Yeah.
Now, some of those same kids that are now adults, and some of them are on my Facebook, okay? And if you want to go harass them about it, go ahead. I don't know if they'll remember or what, but they told me a crazy story one time. We were all having a sleepover at Randy's house, and now Randy, I've told about the ghost at his house, and I saw something weird there. And him and his brother Ricky, they lived in a haunted house. It was haunted, for real. And so we were walking home one day, like I don't remember, it was football practice or something. We were coming home, and I remember we were just talking about that house, the big white house right across from the gymnasium.
Yeah.
That one's haunted.
Yeah.
And so there's people that are living there now. I don't think they're from Taylor, but that one's always been known as being a haunted house. So we were walking by, and Daniel said something about, well, what if a ghost just came running out of there? I was like, what if a ghost? I'm not even worried about a ghost. I don't even care. At that time I was like, I didn't care about any of that. I mean, if it's there, it's there. Scared, if you have to be somewhere because you could see it sometimes or feel it, and we were joking, and then Randy goes, well, we got back to his place and we went upstairs and we were playing video games, and he said, I remember one time, me and Clay, it was one of our friends, and he goes, we all went to throw, we were bad, we went to throw rocks at the windows of the band hall, okay, that's what he was saying, and he said, dude, that they were little punks, right? We all were. And he said, we went to go pick up our rocks and to throw them. He's like, and we see something black move around the corner of one end of the band hall and run like across the room. And we all just dropped our rocks and took off. And so now that gymnasium there used to be a tennis coach that told me a story years ago about this specter or something he saw there. And I'm pretty sure it was him that told me this story, but that was creepy because the way he described it, it looked like the way he described it to me. I don't want to call it a flying humanoid because it wasn't humanoid like, but it was okay. Like take a giant bat and make it like spectral.
Okay.
Like he said, it was like this big. Like he put his hands up like that, and he said that it was hanging out in the corner, And he was like, "What is that?" And he kept looking. He's like, "What is that?" So he's like, "Dude, I closed up the gym and I went home." And he goes, and I grabbed my son's slingshot. So I went back over there.
Better than nothing.
And he goes back over there and he says that there was that nothing happened that day. So he just kept it in the car. So the next day he was there finishing up whatever. And he goes, I look up and there's something that moves from one corner to the other. And I see it sitting in that same corner. And he goes, it wasn't an owl. It wasn't a bat. He goes, but it was like a spirit, like a ghost looking thing. So he says, I grabbed my slingshot and he goes, well, it wasn't his. It was just, I know his son's, whatever. But he fires at it and he goes, it hits. Like you see it go through whatever that is and go bang. And the little bearing or whatever came down and fell. He said, but the thing reacted and the thing swooped down. He goes, and I got a really good look at it. It swooped down over my head and then it flew out the door. I said, oh, the door was open. He said, no, the doors were closed. So this spectral bat looking thing, and he said when it flew over him, it did kind of look like a bat, but he couldn't see the head. But he said that it was like almost like a moth's body, but with bat-like wings. And it just looked bizarre. And where the eyes would have been, it just looked like two white dots. And it flew over him, and he got a good look at it. He said, when I looked up, I could see through it up to the roof, up to the ceiling. So this thing didn't have a corporeal body, and it flew out. But he said that there were he claims that there were other people who had seen that. Now, the janitor's story, you remember when we went to that guy's IPA bar or whatever that he had there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were from North Carolina?
I think so.
I think North Carolinians, whatever. But they were really nice people, and we were hanging out talking to them, and they were talking about the story, because that was 2 Octobers ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
2 Octobers ago, and they had it all Halloweened out, whatever. And they said that there was a story about the haunted place there, the janitor. Hold on one second. It says, any weird stories from the Tri-Cities area here in Washington, Josh? Like either Kennewick, Kennewick, Richland, yeah. I was just over there a few years ago. It says, I also need to upgrade to the $50 tier so I can get your books. Well, we'll talk, Miguel. Hit me up. And if anybody interested in joining the Patreon, it's a good way to support the show and do whatever you got to do to help with that, you know. We're going to try and do more shows and get back on track, dude. We're so just tired of all this mess, dude. Feel like I'm just constantly dealing with these people. They don't work, so they have all the time in the world to do whatever they want. So it must be nice. I don't know what I would do if I just didn't have anything to do. What do you do? Play games, video games, or what? I mean, what would you do?
I mean, eventually you would find some way to pass the time, but eventually you would just end up devolving into using that time for like bad things. Because I mean, that's what idle hands are. You know, like.
You're talking about just anybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, just anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have something productive to do, something positive, then you're gonna just devolve into messing with people and just being a degenerate.
I think there's two kinds of bored people. And what I mean by bored is like bored. They get bored, right? I think there's really stupid people that are just prone to deviance. They get bored really easily. And then there's really, really smart people that just nothing interests them, I think when you're bored, there's really something that you want to do, but you can't.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of focused on that. And that's my experience anyway. And then it creates like this boredom because nothing else seems appealing or whatever. I haven't been bored in years. So I don't know what that's like. I don't get bored. People are like, aren't you bored? No. Because even if I have to go sit a site, I find something to do. With the show, I have plenty to do. I can talk to people. I got about 8 people lined up to talk to over the next couple of days about their stories and things.
You don't even have to have fun not to be bored. You just have to be occupied.
Yeah, just keep yourself occupied. That way you're not doing deviant things and scheming and plotting and thinking of things. The larceny that lurks in the hearts of man, I'm telling you. So some of these stories too, like whenever somebody tells you, oh, you have a show, and they'll tell you a story that you wouldn't normally get. It was a lot harder when I didn't have a show. I'd be like, tell me your story. And they're like, why? Well, I just collect them. Okay. Are you going to use my name for something nefarious? No. But, no. They call them spirits for a reason, I believe. Miguel says I don't get bored either. I'm always learning about stuff, and my brain's always been worked out. Yeah, it's always being worked out. It's good. Overbuilt motors. Yeah, get out of the tool shed, losers. Civil War ghost stories. I don't know if I have any of those right now. I can go and look. Have you seen any come across? I don't think so.
Not that I recall.
I don't remember seeing any, not anything recent. I'd have to go and look at the folders and see what we got. One of the things that I notice about bored people too is they're always the people that'll eventually get themselves in trouble. I had friends like that. They were like, "I'm bored," but they want their idea of going and doing something is like throwing rocks at the band class. You know, it's like that's your idea of doing something fun. They would do stupid things. You know, I drew the line at throwing rocks on the side of a church while the people were in there having church. There was one kid. There were two of them actually. I'm not even gonna say their names, Jerry and Terrence. I'm not gonna say their last names, Williams and Stevens, but I'm not gonna tell you their social security number. I'm joking. They were bad kids. Okay, I don't know where they are now. I don't know whatever happened to them. I don't keep up with them, but they wanted to go throw rocks at the side of a church, and I'm like, no. And then it was like, oh, you're a wussy because of that. Well, call me what you want. I'm not going to do that. Sorry. It's not going to happen. And then they wanted to go spray paint and tag up a subdivision that was being built. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that either. Funny thing is, I ended up living in that subdivision off of Lark Lane when I was a kid. And ours was the third house on that street. And there were only two houses being built. One of them was mine. They wanted to go over there and vandalize it. And I didn't know that it was going to be ours.
Yeah.
My dad just said, hey, we're buying one of these new houses over there. And I was like, oh, cool, because I was a latchkey kid at that point. My mom and dad had gotten back together. Worst mistake ever. Just a constant war. And so I was like thinking to myself, man, I was going to go vandalize this place with my friends, and I declined. And then they ended up getting in trouble. And then they got like community service or something for like months. And I was like, thank God I don't have to do that on my Saturdays because I didn't go with them. I was like, I'm not doing that. There's some things you just won't do. Certain people will ask you to do things that are just not. There's lines I won't cross. I just won't. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't give a crap how mad I am or what. Nope. I have certain morals I've always had as a kid up until this day. And I will say this too. Every time I got in trouble as a kid, it was somebody else's dumb idea. And I just was there going along with it, which got me in trouble. I never had the idea and said, hey, let's go do this. Never. I just stupidly followed other dummies and got me in trouble, which in my hometown was easy to do. You know, when I grew up in those small towns, there's just nothing to do. And as a kid, you get bored, so you get in trouble. But it wasn't so much of being bored as when you're with certain people. Because, like, you're like, hey, let's play video games. Nah, I don't want to do that. You know, let's play a board game. Nah, I don't want to do that. I want to go outside and break something.
Yeah.
And if they're not doing that, then they're not happy. Like your little brothers, they wanted to break stuff in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly my stuff.
Yeah, they broke. I remember when they broke your PlayStation. Boy, that was not a good situation.
Yeah, they'd get bored of breaking their stuff, and then go in my room and break my stuff. They broke my PlayStation, broke that expensive, like, for the Guitar Hero game, you know, it had the guitar controller, and mess with that, and they'd, like, take DVDs and games out of the case and throw them all on the floor and leave, like, chocolate pudding everywhere.
Remember when we bought the Halloween decorations? They helped your mom decorate that one year, and then Gordo went up and just broke the one off the door, just broke it. It had a little jaw and it laughed. He just went up and pulled it and yanked it right off, like just walked right up to it right after we put the decorations up and just broke it.
Yep.
Yes, Gordo, you were a turd. But he panned out. He's not a bad kid. He's just goofy. I remember Paulito asking me what was the most ridiculous thing he ever did, and I said, dude, he went into my mom's bathroom and he played with the Cincy and slung it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was because my mom was not nice back then, and she was a pain in my ass, okay? I helped pay her bills, and I helped do things for her, and we shared an office. She was there. During the day, I used it as my office because I was out at the lake working at night, actually at the lake down the road from where I'm at now. And during the day, I was there, and then she would use it at night when she'd come home because she would do people's taxes. My mother was a workaholic. Both my parents workaholics, and so we shared the office. So to be nice and in a way to help her without making her ask for it, I would pay part of her mortgage. That's what I did. God bless my mom. Rest in peace. But so I'd pay part of her mortgage. And that way I could say, okay, look, I'm not giving you a handout, whatever, because she had run into some money problems and she was making good money, but then she lent money to some people, which she shouldn't have, and then she had a botched surgery, and then it was suing the people and going all through this nightmare of the lawsuit. And so, long story short, she was mad at my nephew and Anthony's little brother, and because he went in there and I didn't even tell her. I was angry, not in the mood, and I just was like, well, good luck with that, and I didn't clean it up. And then she called me and she was like, you know what that little turd did? And I was like, what? I acted like I didn't know. I was like, oh, that's horrible. But I'd seen it, you know. But yeah, he was a little jerk, man. And we were talking the other day at what was your mom's birthday?
Yeah.
Palito remembers throwing that everywhere.
Yeah.
It was bad, man. He did it a couple times. Went in there and played with the Scentsy and slung it everywhere. You know, I don't know what his deal was with that. You go in there one day and there's red all over the bathroom, and one day there's blue all over the bathroom, and it was just whatever. Kids. So one of the things that happened though at these different locations that I remember specifically, I was thinking about this one day, and I remember getting a story about somebody telling me about the janitor story when we were there visiting, and when they described this janitor, I was like, that's what I saw. It was like, I believe they said it was like a short Hispanic guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's what I saw. That's what me and Seth saw. It was weird. And I just remember going like, I've never seen that janitor before, because he came in whistling, and he was whistling like really fast. And so one day when I was there, I was in school suspension because I had gotten into a fist fight with another kid. And me and the kid were actually, it was dumb. We both got put in school suspension. So what do? They sit us right next to each other in school suspension. Of course, we're not going to be fighting in there. And so we just kind of started talking and just like, hey, what's up, dude? You know, and his name was Marcos. And we ended up becoming really good friends. We had both busted each other's nose open, and we just became friends. And so me and Marcos were the last two out because we were finishing a quiz that they had given us. We were in the same class, and we got into a fight because of some stupid thing. Other kids starting it, whatever. And so we were sitting there, and he was asking me for help on one of the questions, and I was telling him. And the teacher's like, okay, so y'all could just stay here another 30 minutes since y'all want to be talking and cheating and all that. And I'm like, oh, man. So I was like, all right. So we just sat there. So we sat there, and she timed us out too, Mrs. Tamron. She was just like a person that wanted to be in charge. She's like, I'm in charge. She's like that kind of person right there, right? Y'all want to be such smart mouths, y'all can just sit here for another 30 minutes. I don't care. And so she just sat there with her feet up, reading a book, you know, some whatever, trash romance novel, whatever. And I tried to be nice to her. I was like, what are you reading? None of your business. I mean, that's how she would talk to you. She was perfect for the in-school suspension. She wasn't going to be nice to you. She'd go up there and get your food tray, right? You get a sandwich. The only good thing about a sandwich, you get the pickle. She'd eat your pickle. That's the person she was. I'm telling you, dead straight. She would eat your fruit cup in front of you.
She got that job because she enjoyed it.
She enjoyed it. She was the gatekeeper. What do you call that? The dungeon keeper, whatever. So we're sitting there in school suspension, and I remember this. I remember us leaving like everybody was out of the school, and we were walking out, and I remember hearing a whistling, and I was like, that's weird. So then when we started talking to these people who run these the place there, they said that sometimes they see somebody that looks like a janitor move by the door, but then they go look and they never see him. Isn't that what they said?
Yeah.
And then they said that they hear whistling, and then my ears perked up, and I was like, wait a minute. So I don't know what that was. And the janitor, we knew who the janitor was. Like his name was Jody or Joey or something like that. And he was a person who had special needs, right? And he was a nice guy. He was a really nice guy. But sometimes the kids would pick on him. No, I didn't do that. But some of the kids would pick on him or whatever. And I'd be like, dude, leave him alone, man. He was a little guy. But it wasn't this other janitor. And so it'd be interesting to hear him and tell us, you know, for years he was the janitor there, and then find out if maybe he saw that other janitor. The story is that the other guy had a heart attack and died there at night, and they came in the next day, and he was gone. He was deceased. And then from then on, he had worked there for like they said, 20 years or something. Something wrong? Oh, okay. Yeah, thought something else had popped up here. But yeah, so the story was that he had passed away there, and ever since then, people would see him. Now, he was always seen, pushing the broom. He's always like seen doing that. But so I don't know if there's any validity to those stories. I don't know if it's real. I don't know. I mean, I just know what people tell me, and I know that I heard what I heard, which was the whistling. I remember that, and there was nobody in the building because the lady that was watching us, she turned around and locked the door. And in school suspension, everybody got out, I believe at like 3:40 or something like that, whatever time. And we had to stay there for an extra hour because you were in school suspension. So it sucked. You had to get there early and stay late. It was rough. I'm not joking. The in school suspension in high school was much easier. Like the middle school there was like a prison. And so I remember like us leaving. So 30 minutes after that was an hour and a half after everybody was gone. So there wouldn't have been anybody. And so I looked at the teacher, Miss Tamarin, or the lady that wasn't the teacher, she was the warden basically. And I asked her, I was like, "Did you hear that?" She was like, "No." And she just said, "Let's go." And she like put her hand on our backs and pushed us like to go, And I was like, okay, I just lived down the street, but I guess she gave Marcos a ride. And the next day we were back there. We had 3 days. The next day we were back there, and I was like, "Did you hear that whistling?" I said, I heard that one day. And I remember the story of the janitor. The kids would say there was a janitor. The people would say, and I didn't know whether it was real or not. That was right when I first started going to that school because I was still going to Rockdale and I'd gone to Taylor. And so I asked a few people about it, and some of the kids knew the story. Some of them didn't, but nobody really that I knew had seen it. So, I mean, maybe I saw it, maybe I didn't. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. Yes, they do. 86. Now, here's speaking of janitors, we're just going to move along here organically. Here, I got one from a janitor that told me a story about a building here, and there's an LBJ building, and we actually did security for this building. I didn't do it. It was on a patrol route that I used to have, and I'm not going to lie, it was one of the last hits. We did one at the beginning and one at the end. And then there was another route that would cover the middle. It was weird how this company did their if you know about security stuff, you would know what I'm talking about. Their patrol routes were jacked. I'm telling you. It was bad. So they're like, "Hey, and what do you expect though from a company called Guardco?" I mean, they're not going to have the best. But anyway, it's called Guardco, and we were working there. I don't even know if the company still exists. But a good friend of mine, Taylor Young, used to run that company, and he gave me a patrol route. So I go into the building the first time I went in there, and I'm not even gonna say I went in there because I didn't even go in. I walked right up to it. I saw the janitors and I waved, and they just went like that. And then as I turned around to go and get the D-Tex, which you got to hit the outside of it, and the janitor stuck his head out, and he said, "Hey man," he said in Spanish, "It's good. Hit the window, whatever." And I said, "Okay, cool, thank you." Gracias, heck yeah, and then I walked back to the car and it took off. Okay, so and then at the very end of the morning, because the other guy's route would go by there at 5, I would go by at 6. And so I go up there and I just lock it up, right? Make sure it's locked up. I pull on the doors, make sure it's locked. I go up there to pull on the door to make sure it's locked, and I see the janitor laying there asleep on the couch, and I'm just like, whatever. That's his business, what he wants to do. I just kind of knocked, and I think his name was Javier or something like that. But he got up and he kind of waved. And I waved, and then he just, so it was him. The next day, this is kind of freaky. It's kind of weird. The next day, I hear that he had actually been in a car wreck, and he had passed away. And it was like the very next day. And I found out that he had been having marital problems, and we don't know exactly what the whole story was because I didn't know him that well. I only had a couple conversations with him, and I knew him from another building that I used to see because him and his crew would do these 4 buildings right there in that area. Well, that building was supposedly very haunted, and I didn't really, like I said, I don't think I've been inside of it, but maybe once, maybe. And so that was my routine. I would just go up and he'd be there. But then that morning, I saw him, and all I had to do was check the doors, make sure they were locked on the outsides. I didn't have to go in. But a lot of people told me that place was haunted. Now I had a security guard tell me that he saw, and get this, on the floor, This guy Alvin used to work security with me. He said that there was this like what looked like a round face, like a face, and he said that there were eyes on it too, and you could see the eyes like blinking, and it had like what looked like a mouth. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? So I thought that's a crazy story, you know. Like he goes, I know you're into the scary stories and stuff like that. When we were working together, so he told me that story, and I thought, really, dude? Like I didn't know what to believe about that. So fast forward about 10 years after that, and I was working at another place, at this place called Heights on Congress, and I ran into a police officer who says, hey, and we were friends, and his nickname was Buddy, and Buddy says, hey, he was off-duty guy, he used to be the patrol guy, where he says, hey, I got a guy who got a story, he's a story to tell you. I know you like to collect ghost stories. And I said, yeah, I do. I got about, 500 of them, And he says, yeah. So I said, all right, well, what do you got? And so the next day, this guy comes by, and he says, hey, and I guess they grew up together, whatever. They went to school together. And he said, hey, I got a story for you. He's like, I used to work at the LBJ building. It's here in Austin. And I said, yeah, what about it? And he says, dude, I went in there one day when I was the janitor. And I'll get this. This is really weird. He said, I see this other guy working there as a janitor. And he's like taking the bags and he's putting the stuff in there, whatever. And I said, oh, that's crazy. And then he tells me this story. And he says, and I got a million stories like this. This is bunches of them, like from the janitors, security guards, cops, EMTs, firefighters, you name it. And so he tells me this story. He says, dude, I asked the guy, I was like, are you working here? Like, the guy says, no se habla inglés. And so he tells him in Spanish, un trabajo, whatever. And yeah, it's my job. And then he says he walked back out and he says, okay, well, there's already another crew here. So he goes out and he gets on the phone and he calls his boss. He says, hey, there's another guy. He's working here. And I said, and he said that there shouldn't be. So his boss shows up and then they walk in there to talk to the guy. He said, my Spanish wasn't real good. He's Mexican. He didn't speak Spanish very good. So they go in there and his boss spoke good Spanish and started trying to find this guy. They didn't find anybody. And he's like, I'm out there. There's nowhere this guy could have gone. I mean, he should have been in there. So then they end up going inside, sweeping the place. They don't see him. And then a couple days later, he's in there. And his wife worked with him part-time. So like Wednesdays and Thursdays, she would go up there with him. Oh, she was off from her other job. So then they were working inside the building, and they hear somebody talking. And then they realize as they get closer to where they hear the sound talking that it is not talking, it's somebody singing. They get into one of the areas where there's like this break room, and there's a radio playing Tejano music. Tejano music is like a type of, it's like there's different type of Spanish music, right? They hear this music playing. It just comes on. Like there's nobody there, but the radio just, and it starts playing, And so I asked him, I just out of morbid curiosity, I said, what was it playing? He said, I don't know. It sounded like maybe Ram Herrera or something. I can't remember what he told me exactly, or La Sombra. I can't remember, but anyway, my mom used to listen to all that stuff, man. There was cumbia and all this other, and there was conjunto, and then there's tejano. There's all these different kinds of music, whatever. They all play accordion. It sounds very similar. But anyway, they heard it, right? And then they look at each other and they're like, what? And his wife's like, el cucuy, cucuy por qué, and whatever. And so she walked over there and she turned it off. And then they worked the rest of the shift, and then at the very end of the shift, as they're about to leave, walking out the door, the music comes back on. Couple of weeks go by of this weird, the radio coming on. They'd hear somebody talking, whatever. Finally, he gets another look at this guy. And he says, I look up and I see this guy standing there kind of looking over at me. And I'm like, what the heck? He's like, it's that janitor again. At this point, I asked him, in the truck with me that night, too. In the truck, you remember Reba.
Oh, God,
what was his name? It was him and Jason. I can't remember the guy's name. Scott, yeah. They used to work for us. I don't have their permission to say their name, but they were there. They were listening, and then Scorpion was in the vehicle with us. So we were all sitting there, and we were talking to this person, and they were telling us this creepy story. And I think it was at Heights on Congress. But we were sitting there talking, and then this person gives me the description of this. I said, what did it look like? They said we had like longer shoulder length hair, younger guy. He didn't look very old. He had a goatee, a real long goatee, and he remembers him wearing a silver cross. And I told him, I said, "Oh man, dude, all the blood drained out of my body, like from the head down, just went, like it just drained out of my head." And I just was like, I got lightheaded. I said, "Dude, I know that guy." And I told him, I said, "Yeah, I know that guy." So I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was either Javier or something like that. But and I said that guy died like that next day, like after I saw him. But that was pretty telling. That was a creepy story. I mean, and that was, since we're talking about janitors and different types of whatever. But I'm not 100% sure that was the same guy, but I'm probably 90% believing that was the same guy. So what I did when a few years ago, I'm sorry, actually not a few years ago, it was a few months ago, I talked to a security guard that I hadn't talked to. Do you remember Luis?
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw him. Anyway, I talked to him, reached out to him. Used to work with us. We used to work at a Tejano bar together doing security. But what he told me, he said, I know this guy Albert. Now I met Albert through him, and he said this guy used to work the LBJ building at night. He said the same thing. He said that and now the story that he was told, and I just heard this this was probably back in August, or maybe it was July. It was like right after my birthday, I think. And I think, you know what? I know it was because he wished me happy birthday or something. And we started talking, and he used to work for this real, how would you describe him? A scumbag.
Yeah.
His company they are like the kind of people we're dealing with in this situation and stuff's going on. That's how they are in the security business.
Yeah, pretty much.
They are the absolute waste.
Pariahs.
Pariahs. They cause so many problems. This, like I said, this isn't something new, folks. These people do it in every field you're in. They cause drama, they cause problems, and they just create chaos. And I don't stand for it. I don't take it. I don't play around. So, and they report you, try to get you audited by the board or whatever, or DPS, and they try to mess with you. And you got to keep your I's dotted and your T's crossed, so that there's no problems. Because people like that do all this bad stuff, and then if they get caught, then they try to throw everybody else out. Throw shade on everybody else. But he used to work for that guy, so we were talking. But he said, I know a guy who's got a ghost story. And when I talked to this guy, he started telling me a ghost story. And I said, wait, what building were you at? And when he told me, I said, okay, I've heard stories from there before. A police officer friend of mine had a buddy that used to had a janitor business. And eventually he bought that business from his boss and then took it over. But this guy, Albert, told me a story, and he said what he told me was very compelling. He said, dude, I was working there, and I was, cleaning or whatever, and he goes, my wife, who's now his ex-wife, she was across the road doing another building. He said the security guards would come, and they would check on us, everybody, blah, blah, blah. And that's how he met Luis. And then he said, you want a job? So he went to work with them at the company he's at. And so we started talking. And one of the things he told me was really interesting. He said that he saw this janitor. And when he started talking about that janitor, I asked him, I said point blank, I said, let me ask you, what did he look like? And when he described him, I said, oh man, he goes, oh no, that's him. Because I said, I told him about the guy that died. He goes, that's him. Because they had him on camera. But when he looked, people would see him. He would look flesh and blood, but on the camera, it just looked like a wispy image.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. And so that gives me chills. I was just talking about it. So talking to that guy, Albert, he's actually a pretty cool guy. Actually, he trains with Rodrigo. So we got some stuff in common. He's a cool guy. But we started talking, and it was interesting that he told me that. And I was like, wow. So I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not talking down on anybody don't take it that way. If I'm talking about being a security guard or a janitor or whatever, I don't have a problem with that. But if it was me and I was in the afterlife, that's not my idea. What I would do, I wouldn't do my job hanging around, as a guard.
Yeah, I mean, like, regardless of like what my job was, if I'm in the afterlife, I'm not going to want to be going to work, It's like, I'm supposed to be, like, free from this. What the heck?
Do you think he's like something where you get like lost in time or something like that?
I mean, maybe it's like not necessarily the spirit of that person, but just kind of like the I don't know, like the residual like
Or maybe
energy or
it's an
something. I don't
alternate
know.
reality where it's bleeding through.
Yeah, it could be that
Maybe he's
too.
still alive in that alternate reality. I've thought about that too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's weird stuff. Weird, wild stuff. I got a bunch of stories like that, man. I mean, we got a guy named Caleb who gave us a story, and he was an EMT, and he went to a place where there was a wreck. I believe he said it was 71, wasn't it? 71? Cedar Creek area or something like that. I think it was.
I think so, somewhere in that area.
So he went to answer a call, and he saw a guy that was kind of rolling around in a ditch, and he was like, "What the heck?" And then he sees the guy climb up the ditch and say, "Help me," holding his midsection, and he goes, "Stop moving, stop moving. You've been thrown clear of this wreck." When he goes, "Hold on, I'll be right back," he turns and he runs, and the other guy comes, and they go to get a stretcher, and they go to get this guy out of there, and then they go and they look, and the guy's gone. Then he says that where this guy should have been, there was nobody there, but there was a shoe. And then they go further around the other side of the vehicle, and the guy is laying there on his side, and there was a reason why he was holding himself. And basically, the guy was deceased. And I said, "Well, is it possible that he fell down out of the ditch and then crawled all the way over there?" He goes, "I don't think so." He's like, "I don't know what that was, dude." He's like, "But I'm pretty sure that person had passed away. Like they passed away, like that, and that was they probably died instantly."
Yeah.
So he said, "I was pretty sure at that point, but then later, they did say that he must have died instantly." And so, what did they see? Was it that guy's spirit? Was he still thinking that he was alive or something? That's a hard one, dude. Like that's a really hard one to answer, and it's not as simple as it was a demon. I mean, everything's not a demon. There's a lot of demons doing a lot of things. Believe me, there's people that have them all over them. But I don't know what this was. Then I'd asked him, I said, "Have you ever seen anything before or since that?" And he's like, "Not like that. Not like that." But we get stories like that all the time. You get weird stories about these beings or whatever people see. Josh, do you have any guardian angel stories? Oh yeah, I can tell you a guardian angel story right now. Here's if you want one. But I have another one. I have a dogman story too.
Let me get something to drink. I'm parched.
Yeah. Are you going to the store?
Yeah.
Hold on one second, folks. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Let me put where is it? Oh, I just wanted to do the 1 second. The commands are different.
Trying to do like.
Yeah, just a quick second. I gotta clean my glasses and do a couple things. I'll just be right.
All right, so just gonna try and keep y'all occupied for a minute. Wolf just had to take care of something, and I'm fixing to go to the store, get something to drink. I'm parched, and we don't have nothing here because we had to move everything out because we thought we were gonna, well, we packed most of our stuff in, and we brought some of it back in, but like we used to have like cases of water in here and stuff, but we don't have that now. So. But yeah, don't go anywhere. Because I mean, like the show was kind of impromptu anyway. Like we're just kind of shooting from the hip. Actually, we decided that we were gonna do this like not even 20 minutes before we actually went on the air. Like we didn't even talk about it up to that point. We went the whole day up to that point, and then Wolf was like, "Hey, you know what? We don't have a Tuesday show because we don't have a pre-recorded like podcast episode because all we have is a discussion." So I was like, and he was like, "You want to do it like a Q&A, paranormal potluck, something?" I was like, "Well, yeah, because I mean, we didn't give them anything, anything for their Tuesday, so let's just give them this." Do a dance? I'm not gonna do a dance. I don't have a dance to do.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, nice shirt. Yeah. It says
Smoked
what's it?
sausage,
Oh
not
yeah, smoked
drugs.
sausage, not
It's
drugs.
Trey Felton. It's Thorndale Meat Market. That's the guy that.
Yeah, they got the best sausage in Texas. I don't care what anyone says.
They do. They really do. I like the Bodan too, but Anthony doesn't like the Bodan.
I don't like Bonan anywhere. It's weird, dude. The like it's a sausage, but you bite into it and it's like rice and like it's just weird. It shouldn't have that texture.
Yeah.
If you take the stuff that's in Bodan and take it out of the sausage and put it on the plate, it would probably be good. But
That's what I do. I don't eat the casing.
But then what's the point of it being in a sausage?
It's just packaged into a casing. When they smoke it the way they smoke it, it pops anyway. Like all you gotta do is touch it and it just,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. What are we talking about this for? Talking about brisket now, or what are we gonna do? Look, hey, so, anyways, talking about some of this weird stuff that happens, these weird things that go on, whatever. We will have people that will tell us, like, oh, like after you tell a story, of course you've already heard this before. People will be like, well, you were talking about gargoyles the other day. I got a story for you, blah, 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 blah. And now we get that. Whereas before, people would just say, well, I have a weird story. I don't know what it was. But when you were describing this particular thing, I have a story that fits that, and I don't know. There were so many different people who reached out to us just recently after I told the story about the stuff that happened between the two towns here in Texas, that we talked about on Sunday. I've got like 6 or 7 already. Oh, it's over half a dozen, maybe even more, maybe 7 or 8 people who said, "Man, we've seen weird things." One lady was convinced. Now this happened up in Vermont, but she said, "I'm convinced, 100% convinced, that I saw." This is going to sound. I know what you're going to think. You're going to think it's crazy. What she saw, her name was Melissa. She sent me a message. She says, "I saw something that looked like a winged, wolf-headed creature, but it had horns, like little straight up and down horns, and the ears kind of went off like this, but it had horns and it had a dog-like muzzle face." And she did say dog-like. She didn't. She said wolf head, but the muzzle looked kind of like a dog, maybe, a little like not as wolfish, more rounded, maybe. And so I did ask the question. I said it didn't look bear-like or whatever, and she's like, no, like a flying werewolf, but it had horns, and they were pronounced. They were tall, and she's like, it just looked like a demon, like a winged demon, but with like fur. And what happened was, her and her friend were walking home from softball practice when they were teenagers, and they were basically going against what they were told to do. They were supposed to sit there and wait, and there were several of them together, and they didn't live that far away, so they were just like, you know what, we're just gonna walk, we're just gonna go. She lived up in a small town up in North Vermont. Now she's got a very professional job, so just anyways, she goes up the path, and then there's like a little, like a deer trail, she called it, and where they walked, and she said she saw this thing fly overhead, and it was like swooping around, and they could see it up in the trees. And she was like, when it swooped down and it like grabbed hold of one of the trees, it wasn't a massive creature. It was she estimates about 6 foot, not counting the tail. It had a lizard-like tail, but weird. The tail looked almost like it was furless, but it had little spikes on it, like little ridges. And the body had like fur, So that was a pretty crazy story. It was black. There was daytime. There was broad daylight. There was no eye shine or anything to speak of. So she asked me if that was something that, because she said that after she had seen that, she said something, and her great aunt claimed that she had seen something like that, but it was like 27 years before that. And so I don't know. I think that these things are around, and they people see them, and they're real. I believe they're real. I think this really happens. I don't think these people are lying. I think they're really telling a true story. I don't think they're just making it up. I think that people, because like this person, she's a professional person now. And this happened in Vermont. She doesn't live in Vermont anymore, but I think she lives like in Connecticut or something like that. In fact, I think it's Connecticut. But she got me in touch with her sister. Now, this often happens. Somebody will tell me a story, and I'll be like, is that it? Do you have anybody else that knows anything or has anything weird or wants to talk about something weird? So she got me in touch with her sister. And now this isn't real long or whatever, but it's creepy. Her sister lived in New Hampshire. Or she does now anyway. She said that she was living in New Hampshire, and they were living out in the country, out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods and trees. She's like, it's a very beautiful place. They have a little pond out there. And she said for several weeks there was something going on. They were finding, like, they had a couple horses. They were finding things torn apart. Everything she was talking about smacked of Bigfoot. And I told her, I was like, do you believe in Bigfoot? And she's like, I didn't. She's like, but I do now. I believe in something. And she kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, you believe in something, but you don't believe in Bigfoot. Bye. And I hung up. I'm just kidding, folks. I didn't. I'm joking. And so I was on the phone with her, and I was like, and I'm like, whatever. Get out of here. And I hung up. No, we were talking, and what I told her, I said, you saw one of these creatures. I kind of jumped the gun, and I just said, let me guess. You saw one, and it was over there by the barn. And she says, no. She's like, it was in my house. And I was like, she said, me and my husband were driving up, and she's like, I was just trying to tell him that there's something weird going on. She said she found a big footprint. This was years ago, like 20, 30 years ago, whatever. But she said she found a big footprint, and she had taken pictures, and she didn't know where they were at, but she's going to dig them out. She just told me this like recently after this show we just did on Sunday. Yesterday. It was just yesterday. And so she reached out, and she said, look, I got a story. I'm going to tell you. But this was her sister. So then I talked to her. So what she told me, she said, no. She's like, what I saw was Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, in my house. She's like, we're driving up. I'm driving. My husband's looking down at something, reading some papers. He's a lawyer. She looks up, and she's like, oh my gosh. And he's like, what is that? And they look, and there is this thing on all fours that looked, the way she described it was like ape-like, but also human-like, and it was like some sort of throwback-looking creature staring out the window, looking out the window, and it was just, she was in shock. And she said, dude, it was reddish brown fur, with the face was black, and it was just staring at her. And she's like, we did not go in the house. We took off, and we went down the road, and we used it, because this was back, the cell phones weren't a big thing. She's like, we didn't have a cell phone. We went down the road. We told the neighbors, and they called, the police came, and they looked at the county. Didn't find anything. The house was turned upside down. So they said, oh, it must have been criminals broke into your house. She's like, no. This thing did not look like criminals. Like, it didn't look human. It might have been a criminal, but it wasn't a human criminal. Couple days after that, she's out there by the barn. They have a little, she only had 2 horses, and that wasn't a huge whatever. But she said, we had a couple horses. I go out there, and I see this, like, what looks like the hay. Something had been laying down. And she's like, and then I opened the back door of the barn or whatever, getting ready to let the horses out to the field. Not the field, but the little area where they graze. And she said, I opened the door, and there's this creature there. And she's like, it's all on all fours. It's staring right at her. It's about 30 feet away from me. She's like, then it stands up. Reddish brown hair. The skin was black. She said it smelled just absolutely repugnant. It was nasty. It was disgusting. And she said, dude, I didn't know what I was looking at. I knew it was the creature from before, but I didn't know what this was. What is this? And then it just turned and walked off. Three weeks go by, right? And her neighbor tells her that they saw a UFO, and it got so low that it actually followed them all the way to their drive and then took off up into the sky. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's interesting that it was in that same area. And then she told me that they had seen UFOs too, but it was like years before. They didn't see them around the same time as this creature was there, but the neighbor did. So I thought that was interesting. And I got all that from one person who heard the show on Sunday, and then yesterday just having a few conversations here and there. And I thought it was interesting too that they got me in touch with the person who had a dogman sighting. So I'm looking forward to that one. That one was in Maine, but I haven't talked to this person yet to confirm anything. I just need to talk to them about it. So that's interesting. I mean, one thing leads to another. What do we got here? 2 hours. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Because I'm about to jump off. If we're, let's see what we got. I jumped out of a tree. Let me see. I'm going to read some comments, see if we got anything. Yeah, they did move, actually, Danita. Eventually they moved. They didn't stay that much longer after that. Here's the weird thing, though. The house was turned upside down, but there was no signs of forced entry. So this thing was able to open the door and walk in. Had to be. The wind days, angels, giant insects, alternate universes, realities. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff we could talk about. Wolf can come in contact with the demon-possessed attached person to change timelines. The Mandela effect. What? Can coming in okay. Attached person cause you to change timelines in the Mandela effect. Don't give me the line. I have no idea about that, man. I'm interested in learning more about the not deer. Well, we've talked about the not deer. In fact, we got a story not too long ago about the not deer. And it was actually up there in that area near where the where Craig Woolheater's Bigfoot conference was, outside of Jefferson. So that was a ghost dogs in South San Antonio. Do you have anything to add to that? Do you want to talk about that? Because I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the black dogs, the hellhounds? Are you talking about a particular bridge? Elaborate. Yes. Okay. Well, there you go. I know exactly what you're talking about. Do you want to come on and talk about it? Oh, dude, Dogman stories from the Valley. Hell yeah. That weird story we got out of Weslaco. Somebody added something to that to me. Not the people that we told the story about, but we talked about these two guys down in Weslaco, down in the valley, where they actually had a encounter with something that we dubbed it a skinwalker, because I don't know what the hell it was. We thought it was a skinwalker. It was like turning into one or something. Diamondbacks, did they win? Oh, thank goodness. I think the Rangers can beat them. I think they match up well against them. So I didn't think the Diamondbacks would be able to handle Philly, but they did it. They freaking did it. Wow, they won. Okay, cool. It says, I'm messing with my laptop updates and stuff, years of catching up. Well, Cluffy, that's what you need to take care of. No, you talk about it. That was a creepy story. Guy fell asleep. Oh, you're talking about, okay, I know what you're talking about. Heck yeah, Crystal, let's go Rangers. Yep, let's go Rangers, guys. Rangers. So I could tell you this. If you're talking about stories from South San Antonio, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in South San Antonio. I got one the other day. This one's creepy as hell. And this one, let me tell this one. This is a Dogman story. We're in a Dogman story. I'll tell it. This was in South San Antonio. Actually, it probably wasn't even in the city limits. I'm trying hard to remember the name. I don't want to have to look at my phone. I'm trying not to look at my phone. I'm trying not to look at my phone. I'm trying to remember this. I know the neighborhood. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's not important. I can look at my phone, but I'm determined not to. But look, it's just south of San Antonio. I think it's outside of city limits, actually, where this person lived. And this person told me a story. Okay, and this is Damon. Damon gave me a story. Now, he gave me this about three months ago, but he reiterated it about 2 weeks ago. If you've sent me a story, and we're so behind, and I try to get to them all. And I'll tell you right now, folks, if you sent me a story and you want me to tell it, and just remind me, because sometimes I'll be like, I'll forget, or I'll just put it in a folder or file. And Anthony, you know how it is. There's a billion of them in there.
Yeah.
So do you guys just tell me, hey, I gave you a story. Can you look at it again or whatever? And I'm going to try and answer as many people as I can and tell them yes or no. I'll try to get to it. I'll try to do what I can. But this one was given to me by a guy named Damon. We'll call him, I don't want to tell his last name. But anyway, we'll just call him Damon. He was asleep. Now, this happened when he was 17 years old. He said he was 17 years, and it was really 17. He was really 18 because he said it was the eve of his birthday. And he said he was he was thinking about it the next day because he had found out, and who wouldn't be happy about this? He had found out that his dad had been saving up for 3 years to make a down payment on a car for him.
Oh.
And he had been working, and his dad said, I'll match you, So his dad actually was going to surprise him, and they were going to have a surprise party for him the next day. So he was excited. And his sister, his younger sister, he's like, she was several years younger than him, and she was like a kid, right? So she told him, they're going to have a party for you. So she spilled the beans. So, shame on you for telling him. But Damon was happy. He was excited. He goes, I'm laying there. He's like, and I'm laying there like with my hands behind my whatever. He goes, and I go to get up, and he goes, and I felt like my arms were pinned down. Now, this is an interesting story because somebody was asking for a story about a guardian angel. This is, to me, I want to say it's a guardian angel story / dogman story.
Okay.
So, very interesting. He was laying there and he had his arms, and he said something it felt like pressure on my arms, but I didn't feel anything on my body, and I couldn't set up. He's like, and I look over, he goes, and I see something looking at me like this in the window. And he's like, and I'm staring at it, and he goes, and I had the window partway open because it was, hot. And he said that he liked to have the window open, even though the air conditioner was on. His parents would get really mad. I don't blame them. I would get mad. But he's like, I had the window open, whatever, and there was because it would get stuffy in his room. And he said, dude, I didn't want to close the window, but I knew I had to get up to close the window. He goes, and then he felt like something kind of rubbed the side of his face, kind of like a hand. He said it was like a feminine hand. And literally told him, and it was like, Damon, don't get up. Stay put. Do not move. And it was dark, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, and I'm trying to go to bed, and I'm looking over. And he's like, I had school the next day, but I was excited. The next day was Friday, and it was going to be a big party. It was his birthday. I mean, he was happy. And he looks, and he goes, and I see what looks like a werewolf, like a head of a werewolf. He goes, and it had to be because it was tall. I said, Damon, how tall do you think this thing was? He said, it was probably about 7 foot. He goes, it looked like something was crouched down looking in my window, kind of trying to look. He goes, and then I saw, this is creepy. He goes, I saw something poke the screen, and you could see a nail like a fingernail.
Yeah.
And he said it just went and started cutting the screen. And he's like, I'm sitting there and I'm going like, oh my. And he goes, my instinct was to get up. He goes, I tried to get up and run to the door. And this voice said it again. It said, do not move. Lay perfectly still. While he's laying there, he hears the voice again, and it says, pray. Not like as in your pray, but pray.
Yeah.
And he said, he's like, dude, at that point, my right arm, I could move my right arm. The pressure came off my arm. He's like, I reached over and I grabbed the rosary. Now, I'm not Catholic, but I respect people's religions and what they believe and whatever. He grabbed his rosary and he started praying. And he goes, dude, I was like, Jesus, help me. God, help me. Mother Mary, everything. He goes, I was just so terrified. He goes, I was terrified. He's like, and then he's like, I thought about it and I thought, who can protect you? And it said, the voice in his head says, St. Michael, ask God for your protection. This is what he told me. When he did, he said that this thing, he hears like a thud on the side of the house, and he hears like a growl, and then he hears like a quick something, like there was a fight or something, and then he heard like a yelping noise. He goes, and then at that point, the pressure came off of me, and it said, go. So he bolted up out of bed and ran out of the room. And he went into his mom and dad's room, and he's like, there's something on the window, blah, 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 blah. His dad jumps up, grabs a 12 gauge, runs out the front, and he sees this creature running out between in the alley between the two houses where they were living. You know, the house next door was actually their aunt's house in this subdivision they lived in. And it goes out into the street and takes off. His dad saw something very interesting. Beside this wolf-like creature, what Damon's dad said he saw, and I didn't talk to him, I talked to Damon, but what he saw was a white, yellowish ball of light going behind this creature, like following behind it.
Yeah.
Is that not divine intervention or what, dude? I mean, because that's what I think. I think that's what that is. I think that's what that was.
Burning him away.
Something, and you know. Now I don't know if it brought him. We didn't see that part.
Yeah, no, that's my interpretation.
That's my interpretation too. That's what I think. We've talked about it, but the thing is, that story right there, it resonated with me. Now that wasn't the end of it though. One day when he was fishing, and he said this was dang it, what the heck is that river? Not with the Guadalupe, the Canal. He was at the Canal and he was fishing. And he was with his friends, and he said there were 3 of us. And my one friend wanted to go. So because he wanted to go see some girl. And he goes, I'm like, in my early 20s, I was recently single. And he goes, and I was just like, you go see your girlfriend, whatever. I'm having fun with my friend. And he's like, well, I'm going to call so-and-so to get him, come get me, blah, blah, blah. He says, let me use your phone. So he says, okay. So he goes and he walks off, and he's calling their other friend, and he tells him where he's at. And the friend's like, man, I'm not going way the heck out there. And he said, dude, the guy got real impatient, so he started walking. He says, you know what? I'll just walk. It's like an hour-and-a-half walk back to his house where his car was, and he's like, I'll just walk. And his friend's name is Pablo. And so he said, Pablo's one of those people who's got a very hard head. And he goes, I know, because we fought a couple times. And now his friend straightened up. He went and joined the Marine Corps and became somebody, Well, when they leave, which is like an hour later, they're driving, and they're going down this gravel road to go back to where they needed to be, and they see their friend come out of this wooded area, and he's like waving them down, and he's like, what's going on? And he's like, let me in the truck. And like he jumped in the back to bed because he was so freaked out. And when they started to drive off, he sees these 2 black, it can only be described as like dogs or wolves. He's like, I don't know. He goes, really dogs. They look more like dogs. That's what he told me. And they were black because one of them had more a squared off looking head, and they had these weird looking pointy tails. So that's all he saw at that time. When they drive and they get back to civilization, they stop at a store, and his friend jumps out, and he's like, dude, I was hiding because these things came at me. He goes, dude, when I was walking away, he goes, I was about 30 minutes in, which is about that point where they found him, like like about that far. If you compare driving to walking, this is what he said. And he said at that point, he goes, these 2 creatures, they were standing on their hind legs, and they were on the other side of the road. He goes, and I look over and I see them, and they don't see me, but they're like sniffing the air. He goes, and so I ran and I jumped and I crawled into a bunch of, and he's like, dude, I went right into a spider web. Which is that right there to me is nasty and creepy anyway. But he said he crawled up under this. He goes, dude, I had a bunch of brush overgrowth on me. He said they hear me, and they get down on all fours, and they run, and they go in different directions, like on different either side of me, and they're running around. And I could hear them in the woods. He goes, right then I see you, like I hear a vehicle. It's y'all. And he's like, you're driving up. And then this is what's really weird though. He says, I go to get out, like to peek my head out. Uh-huh. Get this. And I look again, I see it. Get this. He says, I look again, and he goes, and it's not y'all. There's no vehicle. And then he looks over. Yeah, he looks over, and he sees one of them kind of doing this with its head, and it's like making sounds like a vehicle coming out of its mouth.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he says, dude, I just crawled back in, dude. And then, of course, he did the same thing. Pablo began to pray. And he's just like, dude, I just help me, protect me, keep me safe from these creatures. And he goes, there's got to be somebody going to come drive down here. I know there's going to be somebody come driving down here. Well, there was. And eventually, this truck, not his friends, not Damon and the other guy, he sees a blue truck come driving. And he's like, at that point, he's so scared. He's looking. He can still see one of them kind of like moving in his corner of his eye. And he's like, dude, I'm so afraid. At that point, he goes, I didn't crawl out to go and try to wave down this truck because I thought when I did, this thing would grab me and pull me back, and then it would kill me, and the people in the truck would just drive off and be like, well, we saw something crazy, you know, which may happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people just driving the hell off. They don't care. They're not going to help you. So anyway, this guy decides to stay put. He's like, and then he hears what can only be described as them speaking Spanish, and he hears it. And so they just basically said in Spanish, let's go. And so they took off, and he said that he could hear him going further into the woods till he couldn't hear him anymore. And they had a weird smell. It smelled like sulfur, and I'm like, well, I'm going to say that. He said it smelled like sulfur and butt. Okay? Like unclean stuff,
Yeah.
you know, like whatever. That's not the word he used, but anyway. And so when these people came, his friends came driving up, then at that point he had crawled out, and he said, that's them. And so he ran and he started waving them down. Crazy story, horrific story. I didn't get it directly from him, but I got it from his friend. And it was weird. And I said, and he said, what do you think it is? Do you think it had anything to do with what I saw? I said, well, how far away from where you lived? And he goes, well, from where I lived when I saw, because this happened when he wasn't living there anymore. So first thing he said was like, well, from where I lived, it wasn't that far. I said, no, I mean like from where you lived when you were a teenager. You're asking if it's connected. And he said, yeah, it's about, you know, maybe 25, 30 miles or something like that. And I said, well, yeah, could have been. But he said that the way that that he described these creatures, they look different than what he saw. Like he saw something that looked just like a werewolf with a weird smile on its face. I forgot to say that part, smile. And then this other things that they saw, they looked like kind of like, they just looked very serious, you know what I mean? And like they were hunting and they looked more dog-like. I don't know. I you know, they compared notes and it didn't really match up. So you wonder what, you know, but it is in the same, like, you know, it's not that far away.
Yeah.
Or I think he was like 35, 40 miles, something like that. But to me, it could be something along the same lines, you know, like even if it's not the same creature, I mean, like they could be from not necessarily the same bloodline, but like part of the same miscreants. Yeah, in that
being.
area. Yeah, same type of crap. And I say crap, I'm calling you crap. You know that? I'm calling you crap. You're a piece of crap for scaring people and chasing people and trying to eat them. That's what you are.
Got to put him on notice.
Talking to you, dog man. All right? Yeah. People ask me sometimes, they're like, what should I do? You know, I'm like, dude, I don't know. I ran. What are you asking me for? I don't run from a fight, but I'm not going to fight that. You know, what I saw when I was 15, folks, that's not something I can fight. What is that?
That's not going to be a fight. Yeah.
I mean, even with dragon breath rounds, like, what's his name from Hernandez Ranch? The lunatic. Not lunatic. He doesn't watch TV, thank God. What's his face? Noah with the incendiary rounds. Now, he claims, and Anthony, you know this, he claims to us that he shoots these things and lights them on fire. Am I joking?
No.
He thinks, and so we've asked him, and he says if they catch fire, they will burn to ash. That's what he says. Now, I asked Jerry, that's the name we used for him, the guy that we worked with. I said, is that true? He goes, dude, who knows what he does? He drinks beer and shoots at shadows all night. I mean, he could be lighting trees on fire. I don't know. That's what his nephew said. But then Joey's brother, which is Jerry's uncle, and his story is his stepdaughter's stories in my book, in one of my books. And he told us that he's shot at them, you know, and got a reaction from them. But you know, and I asked him the same thing. I said, do you think Noah's being honest? Do you think that he really does shoot at him? He goes, I think he is. Like, you know, Joe said that he believes it. He thinks that he sits out there and he tries to go at him. But they've also tried to break into his house. And the next thing that we're going to do is try to interview him for the show. Now, he's a lot like my cousin. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They live alone on their property, purple posts, folks, okay? When I want to go over there, I have to call my Uncle Butch and tell him, look, I'm going to go out there. Tell him, take it easy. I had to call him today and tell him I need to go get my patrol car over there. Can I please not be shot? Not say anything. He just don't take no crap. They don't play around. They're tough people. They don't play around. You don't go prowling around on their property. And not Jerry, Noah's very much like that. When we went out there years ago, the only time I've been on his property, it was not something I wanted to be. I didn't want to be out there. He was just. I'm not one of those like oh my God, I got PTSD because somebody shot a gun, dude. I have guns. Okay, I have guns. This person though takes it to another level. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're sitting there talking, and he wants to be doing stuff and I'm like, there's no point. Okay, there's no point in all that. I'm not, and I'm not bashing him. His family knows how he is, you know. And trying to talk to him is, it's an adventure. It's an adventure talking to him. He's like a big garden. You gotta pluck the you know, it's that kind of situation. So when people say, oh, a boot's on the ground, yeah, we could go out there and walk all over the place, but how many trees are going to get shot? I don't know.
Yeah, people get kind of like cantankerous and strange when they live in isolation for, you know, a long time.
And doesn't go to town very often. Kind of like Theo.
And
Theo's
they kind of have like a shoot first, ask questions later attitude. And so, yeah, it's not smart to just go tromping around on property.
Well, like Theo, when I saw him at the feed store.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, hey, Theo's a very gregarious, he's a nice guy, very no nonsense. He's an African-American guy that I grew up with, but he lives out in the middle of nowhere on 100 acres. It's just you don't want nobody around. Does what he does. He's out there, and he's just like, I see the hate. There's something that I'm not messing with. So I saw him at the feed store one day out there in my hometown, and I said, hey, you had anything happen out there? Because it's literally a cabin. And he says, there's its ghosts, you know. He's like, there's one that comes bouncing around. Now he's got a girlfriend that lives with him. I can't imagine. She's pretty cool. She was actually a pretty cool person. We grew up together too. But she was saying, you know, that it's spooky out there. She doesn't like to be out there alone, but he stays out there, you know.
Yeah.
And the only thing he'll watch football. That's it. He doesn't do much else. Doesn't care about civilization. Let's put it that way. And he said one day I was out there. He goes, and they had these those Mustang grapes. They grow all over the place out there in Taylor area, in Rockdale. And he said we're out there picking Mustang grapes and dewberries. It's summertime. And he says they grow wild, you know. He's out there, and he says, and we hear this like something crashing through the brush. He says, right there on that gravel road, he goes, this bounces right out. And this thing, he said, it was probably 5 foot wide and probably 8 foot tall, you know, huge. And he said that was the third time he had seen a Bigfoot. And so then I said, so what did it look like? He goes, man, I ain't got time for all that. And he didn't even tell me. And then I said, you've seen it twice before? He goes, heck yeah, I've seen it before. He goes, remember when we were kids, we saw one? I said, no, I didn't see it. We were in the holler, and we were trying to catch crawdads. And I said, dude, you know, we were out there with our pails and barefoot, you know. And I told him, I said, I didn't see it. And he goes, you didn't see it? I go, no. He goes, it would look like a shadow, like it blocked out the sun. I said, I remember that, but I don't remember seeing it. Like, so I guess I've had a few close calls with what people would call Bigfoot, but I didn't see it. And so Theo, he did. Like, or claims that was his first encounter with it or whatever. But he might have a more liberal interpretation of what a Bigfoot encounter is. To me, like what my wife saw, you know, and Anthony, you know this. Like, I look over and I see it, and it's almost identical to what Lyle, speaking of Lyle Blackburn had said he saw in Falk, or outside of Falk, you know. And so you got this creature, and he's like, it's a real quick reddish brown thing. I was like, that's what I saw, like a quick, you know. So I don't count that, but Nellie saw it from the side profile. She saw it and it was weird because 2 days, it was either 2 days before or after. Maybe you can text her.
Okay.
Let's ask her real quick. Say, when was it that we saw the ghost guy on the bike? Was it before or after the Bigfoot? It was right. It was that same week. I remember that. And it freaked us out, man. Nellie was freaked out. She's like, this site is messed up. There's something wrong with this place. And then Zane had something weird happen. Something pushed him. And I remember he fell and hit his head. And then I remember Tony claimed that he saw some sort of shadow or something. I don't know. It was a weird place. It was a very weird place. And then my brother claimed to have seen something out there. Just sporadic weird stuff. Like you go into the house and like one of the guards claimed that he heard somebody talking behind him. He turned around. It was houses they just built. These were new houses, right? So there's no reason why there should have been any kind of ghost there, you know. But you walk into a house and somebody talks and says something behind you. You turn around, there's nothing there. One of our guards told us that. And I think that was Clark. Was that Clark or was that Jeff? Who was working at that time? I don't remember. Anyways, they went in and to the house. It was one of the big guys, and they said that it freaked them out. And they like, I'm not checking those houses.
She thinks it was like in 2018.
Oh, I know what year it was. I'm talking about what was it before or after the she saw the Bigfoot, or I guess we saw the Bigfoot.
Yeah, okay.
What's crazy though is that this guy that I grew up with, he lives on some acreage that's a haunted house on it. And there's weird stuff that happens there, and he's seen Bigfoot. There's a very popular story of these guys that were hauling cotton, and they ended up having something run across the road, and it looked like a Bigfoot, and it turned. And now one of the stories, there's different versions of it. One of the stories is it took one of the tires, like it literally, the guy had slowed down almost to a stop, and it reached over and it tore one of the tires off, and then the guy had to be trapped in his vehicle, but then it took off or whatever until somebody came. It was a friend of my grandfather's that claimed that. And then there was another one where the guy said that something came out and punched the side of his truck and left a huge indentation. And it was those grain and cotton trucks.
Yeah.
You know, those bobtails or whatever. And so it was just weird. I mean, like, you know, you get these weird stories. And there used to be a beer joint out there, and I went out there as a kid. I'd run around playing out, you know, running around. And the old timers would always tell us, "Hey, you better be careful now."
Okay, so Nelly said that it was after y'all encountered that.
Okay, so it was right after that then. So yeah, so after we saw the Bigfoot type creature, if that's what indeed it was, I didn't. She got a better look at it. I don't claim it as my experience. I just saw something, you know. The maybe a few days or something right after that. I guess it was right after that. We saw somebody on a bike that looked. Now, this is gonna sound crazy. It had to be a ghost. It had to be, because it looked like the guy's face looked like a young kid's face, like a young, not a kid, but like a, you know, everybody's a kid to me, because I'm 48 years old. But I mean like a youngster, you know, like somebody like 19-year-old kid riding his bike. And my wife's like, "Hey, there's somebody going onto the property." Now, where he was headed, it was a dead end. There was nowhere to go. Everything behind there, you remember that property? It was like barbed wire fence and pasture. There, you'd be able to see him going into the pasture either way. And so we went between each house. We went into each house, even the ones that were under construction. Didn't see this guy, nor did we see a bike. Nor was he pedaling, which was weird. It was just a weird thing, man. And so my wife was like, "What the hell is wrong with this place? You know, like, why is this place? This site is jacked up, man." And sometimes you get places like that. Remember Brackenridge?
Yeah.
And the windows were getting broken. We were there, and the windows were getting broken. I'm gonna tell you something funny. We didn't know what was happening at Brackenridge. The windows were getting broken out. And I thought, because I thought, I'm going to fix this, right? I'm like, you know what? This is bullcrap. It was like 2019. I was like, I'm going to go and sit down on this place, and I'm going to put a stop to this, because every time that the superintendents come in the morning, there's a broken window, and we're like sitting right there on that property. How are these windows breaking? So it happened to me. It was weird. Tony can tell you it was a weird place.
I mean, it happened to me over at Mueller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I was inside the garage of this house that it was a construction site. They were building these townhomes. I was inside the garage, and I heard this loud like bang, or like something like a like something large had been slammed into the garage from the outside. So I immediately go outside to check, and there's no people out there, and behind this house is just nothing but it's just like empty, like flat land. There's just like grass, and I had this like really bright like stream light, and I shined it back there. No animals, no people. I looked up against the garage door. No rocks, nothing thrown up against it. There wasn't even any damage to the garage door, but I was in that garage, and I heard it, and I saw the door, like the garage door, like the impact. So I don't know what that was, but yeah, like it's weird. It's like the same thing that was going on over there at Brackenridge
And at Del Valley.
Yeah,
Del Valley, there were dents being. Oh, and the one in Georgetown too. There were dents that were being put into the garage.
yeah.
Like they were, like somebody had kicked it. It looked like a giant foot had kicked it, and we were like, "How is this happening?" The guard would be doing their round, and they'd hear bam, and then they'd go over there, and then there's a dent. There's a dent in the bottom of the garage door. We couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So I don't know. I think when you start building on stuff, it does disturb something.
Yeah.
Something happens. You know,
Aggravate something.
yeah, you mess something up. One of my Arab friends said that it could be the jinn. Of course, you know, I'm talking about Amin. He said that it could be like there could be a school of them there. You don't even know. Like they have their own civilization or whatever, and you're building, you're crossing over into their world or whatever. I don't know. There's different stories. The Irish say they're the fairies or whatever. You know, there's all these different stories of what they are, and I believe all the above could be the answer. We don't know. I just know that these windows were breaking, and I remember just hearing, and I looked, and I took off over there to where it was at. I mean, I could walk over there. It wasn't very far. Otherwise, I'd have to drive to make sure I could try to catch the suspect, but it was just right there. Like, so I went to the end of the block, and I just looked, and I see the broken window. The house was locked up, and it was almost finished, and the window was broken from inside out. So I was like, yeah, I had to go up in there and sweep that building, and I was by myself, and I had to go up in there and look. And I was aggravated because I was working the day shift over at Palo Santos, and so I had to work that night over there. Yeah, because everything, I was like, I'm gonna put a stop to this. Don't worry. I was like, I'm gonna be the regulator. You know, I'm gonna catch these people and hog time and have the police come get them, whatever.
Learn them something.
Learn them something, right? Yeah, sure, Matt Dillon. I go up in the building, and I'm not going to lie. I was like, security, giving the ghost plenty of way to, giving you a chance here. No, I walked up in there pretty quiet because I actually wanted to catch the person that was in there, and so I thought this had to be a person. But the back door was locked. The front door was locked. We had the key. It was like a master key that unlocked them,
Mm-hmm.
And I checked every room. 3-bedroom house, and there was nothing. And I checked every house on that block. It took me an hour to do every single one in that area, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, there's something about new construction. I think that just aggravates whatever spiritual beings are there, because whenever I was working out at Row Lane, something shook my truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a new neighborhood being built.
That's where we saw the Bigfoot, or what Ellie did anyway.
Yeah, it was a new neighborhood being built. It was a subdivision, and the first weird thing about that place that I noticed was that I would work it overnight, and maybe like 200 yards away from where I was posted at, there was someone's private property, and they had cattle, right? Well, in the middle of the night, just like at random intervals, sometimes every now and then the cattle, they would just start like losing it, like you could hear them panicking. But you wouldn't hear like any coyotes. You wouldn't hear, 'cause if there were coyotes or nearby trying to mess with them, you can hear coyotes yipping and yapping and making a bunch of noise. But like you would just hear nothing. It would be dead quiet, dead silence, and then the cattle would start making a bunch of noise, panicking, like that. Something out there was scaring them, and it wasn't boar, it wasn't coyotes, and when they would do that, there would be nothing else out there making noise. Like everything else would be quiet except them. So that was the first weird thing about that place. But then one night I was working it overnight, and it was like the middle of the night. I got out of my truck just to do a foot patrol, and when I finished, I leaned up against the back of my tailgate. I was kind of leaned up against it like this, and my whole truck like shook from side to side, and it went back and forth like boom, boom. And that wasn't me, and it wasn't the wind because there was no wind. And I immediately like backed up from the truck as quickly as I could to see. Like I checked under it, and then I walked around it, and there was nothing there. Like something, there was something out there, and probably on like new construction in general in that area.
Yeah, but also though, one of the stories we told recently on the podcast episode was the one about Dogman and werewolves and the girls that had the encounters. The one where it kind of when it leapt over the fence or whatever, and it kind of stretched out and elongated, and it looked weird, like it was a blur. I mean, when you go and you look at when you listen to that story, you know, you're there again. I mean, it's a weird thing. I mean, it's really, you know, like it's not far from that area. So I think that just areas of high strangeness. I mean, there's just areas where stuff happens or whatever. Thank you to everybody that donated tonight. We appreciate the donations. I'm getting attacked for that too, because apparently they can accept donations, but if I do, I'm a bad guy. Because, he said he was going to use them for his legal. Yeah, I'm going to have to probably, because these people don't want to stop. So we appreciate it. We thank you for everybody that donated. And our plan right now with these people that are doing, you know, every day we just kind of hope that maybe they'll just quit, but it doesn't let up. And I don't think that these people are capable. I don't think they know how. I don't think they can. No. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks, and this is easy. I'm not going to get into a big deal. Don't watch them. Just don't pay attention to them. Give them no energy. Starve them out, because their audiences aren't big. They're fake. The big, huge one that claims he's a massive brand. He's a massive brand of hot air. He's got a bunch of fake numbers. So but he's still probably he could probably get about the same numbers as we do if he on something new. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But now they're claiming that they vet their stories and all. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I mean, all I know is that is a Social Blade is it's all on public record. You can go look up anyone's YouTube channel on there, and in particular, if you go look up old Prince Hall Voodoo Priest from January to March of this year, that his channel got like 60,000 subscribers, right? From January to March. And then you go to April, the very next month, there's 71 million fewer views than on average. That does not work. The only way that happens is if, one, you hide you set a bunch of your public videos to private, which if you look at the views that his videos get, they might get 2,000-3,000 views here and there, and that's about it. So he would have had this set half of his.
I saw a couple recently where he got like 10,000 or something. Somebody screenshotted it. I don't go to his channel at all.
Whoop-de-doo, Big Papa. But so either he hid like probably half of his channel, set it all to private, which didn't happen, or the second reason that you would get negative views like that is if YouTube audits your channel and they see that your views are not from actual people, that they're from bots, and then they'll take them away.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened in April.
Well, I think that's what Joe and Jesse were saying that from Hellbent Hall. They were talking about. Was it them that told us that? I think they told us that a bunch of people got their views taken away.
Yeah.
Because they got audited by YouTube and they were clean.
Yeah.
They talked about it yesterday on their show, I believe, and they said that ours were legit and theirs were legit. But folks, we've been through the ringer with these people, and you guys already know. I mean, let's be real, okay? We came on and did this show for what? I took my glasses off. I don't even know what the heck I'm doing over here. I'm getting old, folks. You're like in your 50s, man. You know, I'd beat you up if we fought. I'm just doing you a favor. Yeah, sure you are. Just keep doing me favors. Yeah, whatever. 2 hours and 40 minutes almost. And we got 524 people in here. I mean, and we just did this because you guys didn't have a Tuesday because we haven't had time to come in and record. Did you tell them that most of our stuff is still sitting in the living room at the house?
No.
Yeah, like we don't have anything in here. It's just this right here. Everything's gone. So we got to move all our stuff in. But Anthony and Tony and me have all been working, and we're working different days and different times. So we can't coordinate to get everything. So we're gonna have to move everything back in here. We're glad to stay here and re-sign the lease. We're cool. It's good. We're happy. Mickey G says we love you guys. We love you too. Croatian, the face in the crowd, all you people, good people, real people.
Yeah.
David Prosser, uploading old nonsense. Exactly. Thank you, PRT team. And thank you, guys. I want to thank those 5 knuckleheads because I know you're watching me. Hi. I know you're watching me. You're kind of stalkerish. It's a little stalkerish. I'm not going to lie. I'm flattered. I'm flattered. I'm married, though. I'm married and I'm happily married. You know, I got animals that I take care of. I can't take you in. I got animals. They got to eat and live. And, you know, I don't know if your house broken. You know, it doesn't seem like, you know, just got to be careful. You know, I don't take in strays. Sorry, you know.
Plus, the animals have a reason to not have a job. I mean, they can't speak any language that we understand. So
Madeline, I think so. I think he's got some serious. Yeah, him and Ike both. I think they're gonna fight over me eventually and be like, he's mine. You know, I don't know what they want with me. I don't know. I really don't even know why this guy got involved. It was none of his damn business. He just made it his business because of his friend, who's I'm not even friends with. Caught onto his game real quick. Folks, if you guys have your stories and you want to talk, you want to do something, whatever, we can do another open thing on Sunday. I'll just come with a few notes on some backup stories, and on Sunday we'll do the same thing. Throw me some things out there, and we'll see what we got, and we can talk. The other thing I wanted to say, we are still going to do the UAP project. Once we get everything moved back into the studio, once we get everything back in, then we're going to start working on doing some UAP work. Robert Kreider's signed on to help us do that too. Nick Redfern. Who else do we got? We got James Bartley.
Oh, we still have to record again with Melba.
Melba was ill.
Well, yeah, I know.
But she's getting over it now.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't.
I'm saying, like, we tried and the power went out.
Yeah, and Lance too.
Yeah.
We got to record with him. So we got James Bartley. We got Chris James. I need to get a hold of him. I talked to Christopher Jordan yesterday. Daniel Jones. I'm going to write all these names down so I can get a hold of everybody and start setting all this up. And then me and David Wedley are going to start a project together. I had announced, you know, somebody asked me, actually a couple people asked me about a book project with Nick Redfern. Yes, that is true. I had announced that we were going to do something. Dang, cut my finger. And so I talked to him a few days ago, and we are still going to do that. But I am in the middle of something else because I was going to write the UAP book. First, I was going to write the ghost book. So I started, okay? Got about a chapter, kind of what I wanted to do. Yeah, Carlos, actually, yes, we just talked about Noah, who had a couple stories from there. John Bell. Somebody said John Bell. I'm going to tell you right now, I like John, but he's not wanting to. He deals with somebody I don't want to deal with still, okay? And so John, I would love to work with John, and I think he is one of the nicest guys in this field. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. But he's not seeing the forest for the trees. He thinks that the V-Man is on the up and up, and nope. I'm here to tell you, folks, that is not the case. Not at all. I should go look at my Facebook. How you can see that and make excuses, I have no idea. People that are doing that. He also gave up someone's very sensitive information that only he had, and he gave it to one of these lunatics. Not going to deal with it. And I don't care if you hear me. I'm not scared of you. I don't give a damn, dude. I'm not scared of none of y'all. I don't give a crap. All right. Blues in G music. I know you like him. I've seen you in his chat. I know you're friends, whatever. It's nothing against you. I don't have a problem with you guys. If you go to both channels and watch any, I don't care if you watch her channels, you'll eventually see quality versus whatever they're doing. I don't give a crap. So I'm not worried about it. As long as you play nice in here, you're fine. If you start popping off, then you're gone. The documentary, yeah, that won't happen because now it's been partitioned off into other different parts. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Plus, they really didn't want to have any of their real information in the public eye.
They didn't even want us out there.
Yeah.
Well, no, a couple of them did, but one of them was just
because
very suspicious.
None of the information about well, all the names are pseudonyms.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people going out there tromping around and then, getting hurt.
Well, and then somebody managed to put business cards in their mailboxes one day, and that was when everything kind of broke down.
Yeah.
Well, that was when I was working with that other guy, but whatever. I had nothing to do with that. People just don't, that's the thing, folks. If people would, like you were saying the other day, if people would just do right. Like, it's not even that hard to just do right. Like, how hard is it to do right? Somebody told me the other day, you know what they said they started talking trash to me in one of my groups, and they said, well, it's easy for you to say because you have money so you can afford to do right. And I got mad as heck, and I'm going to tell you right now, why does that, dude, you have to be successful to do right? I wasn't successful. By society's standards, I guess I'm successful. I don't know what that means. But to be successful, it's what is it, like subjective, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, success is different for different people.
Everybody. But that made me mad that this person said that, and I tore into him, and I tried to, rein it in, but I was like, you little pissant. I was like, you say that, okay? But a lot of times when you're not and things aren't the way that they're supposed to be, you need to take a look at yourself. When something goes on in my life, let me tell you something. The first thing I do, and Anthony can attest to this, I walk up and I look in the damn mirror and I find out what I'm doing. I always look at myself first because there's a lot of things that I think, man, such and such did this or such and such did, you know what? And then I'm thinking, how am I handling this situation?
Yeah. I mean,
the reports weren't getting turned into one of our sites. We almost lost it, and I was mad as hell. But you know what I had to do? Why wasn't I auditing the reports? Why were me and Anthony? It was our fault.
Yeah.
Because we should have been looking at it, and it turned out that a couple of those reports, because we have a system, it's a computer system, and they weren't getting sent to the client. So the first thing you got to do is start with yourself. Now, if you can be your own biggest critic, and you can be completely be impartial and judge yourself, take a look at yourself, test yourself, judge yourself. Are you found wanting? Because only then can you move forward and say something about someone else and their behavior. Now, I can tell you right now, I'm very hard on myself. My own dad, who me and him, there's no love lost between us, but he used to tell me, son, you're the worst critic of yourself. He used to think that I didn't like myself, very self-deprecating, whatever. And I told my dad, I said, no, I absolutely do like myself. I just want to be a better me. And it was one of those moments where me and my dad actually, he said that was admirable. He didn't give me a lot of, attaboys in my life. He was one of those people that's like, you don't need to be told that you did a good job. You're supposed to what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're always like, I'm praying to God. Oh, look at me. Why? Why do you call someone up and demand to pray with them? And if they're not feeling it, then there's some kind of witchcraft going on or they're evil. How about I'm not feeling you, man? How about that? And how about you not worry about my sin and what you think is going on? I don't give a crap. Worry about yourself. That's what I do. I worry about myself. You need to, everybody that's here, that's listening right now, always look at yourself first. And if you can honestly sit there and say that you don't have any glass house to beat, then you can do what you got to do. And I say that to everybody. And I give credit where credit is due. And in fact, I'm told multiple times that I need to quit being nice. about certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, you told me the other day, Anthony, you're playing fair. You're trying to play. These people are not playing fair. Now, I still stand by what I say. That doesn't mean that we should play dirty, because that's not correct. Even though it may take longer and it may be a harder road, I know that we did it the right way, and that God is not going to judge you the way, because you're not playing it like they are. I don't know what God they talk about. I don't know this God that they talk about, because there's no God that I know of that's going to rain down fire and judgment on me because I don't believe that what they're doing is correct. That's not the God that I worship. I worship the Father of Christ. Okay? Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I've said this many times. I know Ike over there is pretending like I've never said this. Let's go back and look at my says. Then the other one, the fat one, he says, I've never heard of this guy praying or seen me pray, because you don't worry about what I'm doing. I do it on my show. It's none of your business. Go away. Go say your prayers over there for your people. God help them. God bless them. They don't know no better. Okay? I'm not up here to be a preacher. I'm not a prophet. I am not a whatever. I'm a servant of God. I believe in God. I believe in Christ, and I believe it the correct way. But these people are whatever they are. I don't care what they are. I just want them to just go, do whatever you're going to do and leave my channel alone, because you're not on our level.
Yeah, Maddie said you even wrote it in your books, but Maddie, we have to remember that Ike doesn't know that because he can't read. So he's
look at how they spell.
So, yeah.
Look at the grammar. You can tell who's who by their grammar.
Oh yeah,
like it's pretty obvious. I mean, dude. I mean, they don't spell. They have bad grammar. They do all these bad things. And since I cut ties with that other individual that betrayed me, a bunch of people have come forward and said, "Hey, man, I'm so glad that you're not dealing with him anymore." And I'm like, "Well, I wish I would have known," because people were afraid to tell me. I guess all this stuff about him. I don't want to be at odds with all these people, these whatever. But I'm going to tell you something. When we came out with the social blade thing, a bunch of people got mad, and one of them decided to be nasty. And I'm not going to out him. I'm being nice. I told him, I said, just don't ever contact me again. Do not talk to me. Because why are you offended? Why does it make you so mad that Social Blade came out and said that, well, I just don't know why you got to mess with people. I mess with people. Let's be specific here. Why are you mad? Why are you specifically mad? You know who you are. You were specifically mad at me because something's not right in your backyard. You are going to support these people because you're doing something. I'm just saying. You shouldn't be getting upset about that. If I was doing something fraudulent and somebody shined a flashlight on my neighbor that was doing something fraudulent, I'd probably have to be upset because they could shine it on me, and then,
Yeah.
That's how it's common sense to me. That's why he got mad. That's why he popped up and said some crap, because you don't want it being shined on you. When I said AI stories and when I said fake numbers, oh, well, why are you doing blah, 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 blah? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, touch the nerve. Don't mess with me, dude. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone because I'm not saying your name. I'm leaving you out of it. But if you want to get involved, keep talking. Don't message me again. I don't want to hear from you ever again. Don't talk to me. Go do your fakeries and whatever you're doing. Leave me out of it. I don't want to be involved in the bullcrap. Simple as that. Okay? Now, if I ask you to pray for me, then you pray for me. Otherwise, save it. I don't need it. Okay? I pray a lot, and I have a lot of people that pray with me and pray for me. We pray every day. Okay? People saying I practice, not satanic, what do they say? Witchcraft.
Yeah.
Who the hell? What in the hell? I know a lot about that stuff because I've studied different types of religions and all kinds of stuff and different types of whatever. I would never touch that stuff. I would never mess with it. I've had curses put on me. It's not something that I want to mess with. It's not something I want to do. Oh, and their reasoning behind it? Oh, because my eyebrows look a certain way. Oh, and my hair is fake. I got fake hair. What is wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people? Like, do your parents, do they know what they raised? What kind of vipers they raised?
I think they're just mad because if you look at them, they're pretty hideous. Like
Well, one of them lives with his mom.
their
So.
visage is horrendous.
And then they call me all these different types of names and whatever. And sometimes I feel like I'm alone. Sometimes I feel like I'm fighting alone. Like I'm fighting 5 people alone. I know I have allies, but they have just worn them down to the point where they're exhausted. And I guess it's up to me. And sometimes, I don't know. I just feel like I'm out there fighting a war. And I look around and I'm like, everybody's laying down. And I'm like, dude, are you just tired? Or do you not realize that this is still happening? Because you can't just lay down and let these people do what they want to do. Because they are going to destroy this community if we let them. And please, no more messages about just leaving it alone and walking away and all this other garbage. I'm not doing that. Because that's not good for you or me. They've attacked our families. They've attacked our friends, our listeners. They've cloned people's accounts. Every day it's more of this, and every day it's just, and then you got the swamp man over there just every day with on his pulpit making messages and whatever. What we're going to have to do, folks, is eventually just cut them loose and just be like, look, let them rage. Let them do what they're going to do. Let them say what they're going to say. The people that are going to believe it are going to believe it. I don't have time to fight anymore. I got to do the show, okay? And I got to do my jobs. Yes, jobs. I have 2 of them. And I don't have time for these people. I don't. I don't, okay? So I'm just going to have to trust people. They're just going to have to believe us when we tell them, look, we're not the bad guys. Let them say what they're going to say, because this last stomach-turning incident and everybody, I'd say everybody believes that it was some sort of weird situation, but not everybody believes the truth about that weird situation. And to me, it wasn't a weird situation. It was very cut and dry. Very cut and dry. So I have my reasons. He can go over there and say whatever his reasons are. I don't give a crap. He's good at making you like him. So good. Go believe him. But I'm not going to associate with that person or people who associate with him. That's going to be it. That's going to be my rule. You can do what you want. But if you're going to associate with them, I don't want anything to do with you. Well, obviously, I can't stop you from coming in the chat unless you say something. But I can do this. I cannot associate with you if I see you. And I'm going to be very strict about it. Very, very strict about it. Pure as ivory soap. If you deal with them in any shape or form, I don't want to deal with you. I don't need nor want that. I can literally just do my show. I don't need to go on other people's shows. I don't need to go to your conferences and speak. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need the money for the year to do that or whatever. I don't need it. Okay? I make money from the show. We make money from my business. I don't need to do what you want me to do. So why make peace with people that are reprobates? That's it. So that's my situation there. And, they're all fake anyway. And one of them literally just said on his deal that if you want to go, he said, if you want to go to sleep, listen to me. I'm not joking. I'm not making that up. It's on my Facebook. I was like, what is that? Somebody sent that to me. And I looked over there. I don't look at his stuff. I do not go over there. I'm telling you. And I saw it and I was like, is this guy for real? Like, really? There's 2 of them that put me straight to sleep. I'm going to be real honest. Ike doesn't put me to sleep. Ike is like, hits so bad. It's like a train wreck. You can't look away. You're like, I laugh so much at him and his
you're on the edge of your
buffoonery.
seat, waiting to see like where the roaches are going to crawl out from, or like what part of his face the fly is going to land on, and him just like not notice. It's just like buzzing around while he's telling his stories through that black mouth of his.
Yeah, that's a hard one to do. You don't fall asleep looking at him.
Yeah.
But the other one, like the AI generated stories, whatever, snooze fest, dude, for real. I'm like, and then, Potato Head. Oh my gosh, Potato Head, man, Potato Head, just terrible. Well, What did they say? What was the big one? Dude.
It's like that dude from Frisky Dingo.
Stuart?
Yeah, Stuart.
Stuart. No, Stuart, you can't do that. No, dude. I mean, when you listen to these people, and the other one over there, shut up. I killed this man. I killed this man. I killed this man. Shut up. Shut up. You didn't. You don't want to hear it. And the other guy, hey man, I'm going to tell you what. I'll do something. I'll come down there. Yep, I will. Let me get some gas money. I'm on my way. Sure, dude. Sure you are. Sure you are. You're all scary. Ooh, terrified. I'm so terrified. So scary. So scary. I gave him $350. Let me tell you something.
I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him. I gave him $350.
He had no money.
Oh, damn, why would you give him that $350? They ain't going to stop messing with you now. Look, we do what we do, and we're going to keep doing what we do. We're going to have a guest on Friday, like always, and we're going to talk, and we're going to have a good time. Watch what happens between now and Friday. Their collective heads are going to get all, and they're going to start with the diarrhea of the mouth and the foaming and all the whatever. I say this to you. I challenge each and every one of you to something. Get a job. If you get a job, folks, let's have a fundraiser for them. Let's call it Get a Job and Shut Up Fund. And we will give them each $1,000, okay, to shut up and go get a job. But prove that you have a job and show me the receipts, as they like to say. I keep receipts. I haven't seen any of them yet. Receipts about me being racist. I haven't seen that one either. Or that I'm a satanic witch. But let me see a receipt that shows your paycheck that you worked for 6 weeks. If you can keep a job for 6 weeks, I'll give you $1,000. Keep a job, okay? Now, I think a couple of them may have jobs, and I don't mean writing fantasy books. I'm talking about go get an actual job and go work, and then you show me the receipts. Show me the receipts, and I'll pay you. We'll do a fundraiser for these people. We'll go wash cars, whatever we got to do. I know in my heart that I don't have to worry, because I think only one or two of them have a job. The ones that don't have the job now, show me that you got a job after the date of this. What is today? What is the date? The 24th. Show me that you got a job after this date, that you started a job, work it for 6 weeks. Right around Christmas time, you'll be getting paid. Promise you, they won't do it. They will not do it. Oh, we're making money off of YouTube. No, you're not. You're bull crapping, and that's why, because you're faking and you're trying so hard just to make money on YouTube. If you're doing this, you start off doing this, and your whole goal is just to make money, guess what? Your content's going to suck because your eye is on a brass ring that you don't need to be looking at.
Yep.
It took us 3 years to make money at this, okay? And when we started making money, because we weren't doing it for the money, it was like last year, about the middle of last year, we were like, oh, we're actually starting to make money now. I mean, it was second year was barely anything.
Yeah.
You know, third year we started making something, and now, you know, we're actually making money, whatever. But it's like, it's hard to make money at this, okay? And it's not a lot. I mean, you're not going to make a whole bunch. I mean, you better get a job, okay? And that's why there's people, you know, are asking me left and right, well, why do they, you know, what's the problem? You know,
well, because if you get a job, then you have to deal with someone else telling you what to do, and that they got that ego is the size of Texas. They can't be told. God forbid they have a boss telling them what to do. So no, forget that.
Yeah. So I mean, when you have a job, then you don't have time to do all this, you know, nonsense. What does it say? Miguel, haha, meth, coke dealers don't issue receipts. I got nada. Well, you know, the thing is, you know, you what did he say? Nah, what is Cluffy said? Nah, forget them. What? I can't understand what you said. Forgive them. I don't know. I can't read the chat real good anyway. I'm sitting here with my eyes.
I think it's a typo. Is it not forgive them? I don't know.
The thing is, I mean, when you look at these people and you look at what they do, and you look, they're desperate because this is their livelihood. This is not our livelihood.
No.
So I mean, they don't, when I leave here, I go do my livelihood. And then I'm going to work out tonight. And I'm going to that's what I do. And then tomorrow I got to go meet with a lawyer. Not about this crap. It's a real estate attorney. And then I got to talk to the landlords here. I got meetings I got to take care of. I got two clients I got to meet with, superintendent of a construction site and an apartment complex manager. That's my job. That's my life. That's what I do. And then I got to talk to somebody about a construction build. People, they don't understand because they don't work, and they think that this whole thing is my whole world. This is not my whole world.
Yeah.
Okay? You take up too much of my time right now from my real world. My real world is doing things. I do things. I deal with people every day who don't know jack about me being a podcaster, and probably better that they don't. Okay? So I sit there and I deal with real world people, real world problems, not in cyberspace. I go to my jobs, I deal with and do what I got to do. And I'm over there in a meeting and I'm talking about a business deal. And these people, you know what they're doing? They're making posts about me, making posts. You see the way he moved? I saw a devil tail come out of his, he's so evil. The Jerry Jones of whatever. I'm like, well, I'm Jerry Jones. You're Jim Jones. That's what you are. So jealous, so angry. He doesn't care about people. He hates people. He hates everything. He never said Jesus was his Lord and Savior. I say Jesus is my Lord and Savior every day.
It's right there written in black and white in the book as well.
He's like Shia. He thinks he's Shia LaBeouf in that movie. Say Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. Remember that?
Yeah.
Dude, you're not him, okay? I actually met him one time downtown. He's not. You're not him. I know what he looks like in person. Look, I'm going to tell you right now. Stop the buffoonery, the chicanery. Stop all of that. If folks, I give you my word right here on this. I won't say another word about you guys. If you all tell me tomorrow that you're going to just shut up and you're going to leave me alone, I'll walk away. Not from the show. That's what you want. It's not going to happen. I can't do that because But I will give you peace. You give me peace, I give you peace. Because nobody's backing me up anyway. It's, it's me fighting all five of them now at this point. Everybody else is just hiding or doing whatever they're doing because they're all beat down. So good. Or they're siding with the lunatic. Let me tell you something. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore.
As far as the thing about you, like, what did they even say that you were using racial slurs in a private chat?
In a private
something?
chat, yeah.
Like, okay,
Is that what he said, or was it a group chat? What did he say it was? I don't remember what he said.
Either way, like, that can be solved. That can be solved with a screenshot. Like, if it's there.
Then screenshot it. Show the screenshot, liar.
Where is it at?
Yeah, show me. He says I'm using the word in my chats. What is he talking about? I mean, and we know who said that. We know who's saying that.
Yeah.
And that's the turncoat. See, you were telling me that you were going to F me up over lies that he was telling. Well, you're the one that's got him back in your camp. So, and you announced it and you were all happy. And then he's too ashamed to admit that he's with you. I could say some things, too, about his little ideas. I'm not even going to say. Things I'm not going to do. Lines I won't cross. Maybe it's all talk. I don't know. But I won't do those things. And shame on anybody who associates with him. I don't care if you call me a friend or you don't call me a friend. If you associate with those people, you're welcome to come look at my chat. Don't comment. Don't say anything. If I find out that you're one of them, I don't want anything to do with you. We want people who have morals, good people. You don't have to be the most moral person on earth. Everybody cusses and does whatever, in their own home, whatever. I do it. I get mad. I say some bad words sometimes. I don't want people of that caliber. And if you're too blind to see that kind of caliber of these people of what they are, then you can't be trusted. I can't trust you if you're unwilling to listen to the truth. It's pretty simple. I put it on my Facebook. Oh, yeah, and like I said, with John, I like John Bell, but he's unwilling to listen. I mean, he's being completely stubborn. That's fine. That's fine. Do what you got to do. We won't work together. We won't. Unless you see the truth. And I'm not making anybody bend or anything like that. You stay stiff-necked and do what you got to do. When I show you the proof and you make and the excuses, and then you go, oh, yeah, I believe them. That's willful ignorance. That's called being willfully ignorant. And if you choose to be willfully ignorant, then I can't associate with you. There's something wrong there. You need to have a better moral compass yourself, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm not talking about John, I'm talking about anybody. He's extremely loyal to this guy, and I'm like, dude, I feel bad for these people because he's right there with the dragon, and he's just getting you one step closer to him.
Yeah, when I saw the conversation, at first I was kind of giving it the whole thing the benefit of the doubt because I saw the conversation like out of order. You know, like I wasn't reading it chronologically, and so it kind of threw me off. But then I put it all in order, and you know, once you read it from beginning to end, it's pretty obvious. You know, I mean, anyone. I think that it's not hard to deduce. You know, what the way that went down and what it really meant, and if you honestly think about it, and you still choose to believe what you want to believe, well, that's your prerogative, but you're believing the opposite of what the evidence says. There's really no getting around that, you know. And like I said, the only way that you might even have doubts is if you did what I did and read the conversation out of order. But you put it in order, and it's like, oh yeah, there's no way that this could be anything other than what it looks like, and it's disappointing to say the least. But
yeah,
it doesn't really matter what you want to believe. What matters is what is reality, what is the objective reality. We don't have to like it, but we do have to accept it, and that's the bottom line. And there are a lot of things in this world that we don't like, but we have to accept. I believe this is one of them. And if you choose not to accept it, that's a choice you're making that goes against common sense.
And then one of the cop-outs too is like, show me proof, show me proof, show me proof, and you give them your proof, and then they still, well, I don't accept that as proof. Like, I mean, I honestly think some of these people that actually want to sit the fence or they want to be on their team or whatever, there's nothing you're going to do to change them. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, they could see this person do something right in front of them, and they're just going to be like, well, I don't know what I saw. The light bulb hit my eyes. It was a glare, and my eyes were, you know, they were strained. I couldn't, like Eddie Murphy says on the.
Oh yeah.
My eyes were sprained. I need millions of dollars now, but in this case, it'd be like my eyes were sprained temporarily. I couldn't see him doing what he was doing, therefore it didn't happen. So there, you know, sorry, man. They're just going to believe what they're going to believe. It doesn't matter what evidence you show them. You could march 1,000 people in front of them. Doesn't matter. And I don't need stupid people like that. They're stupid people, willfully stupid people. And if you think I'm talking about you, I probably am. Just believe it. You're stupid. So that's what you're doing. That's fine. I don't need to explain myself to anyone anymore. I'm good. If you want to believe this story, believe it. The one thing that Swamp Master did was post that him and him were friends again. That wasn't a ploy. That was real. So that's the one, you know, I can say that for sure. So, folks, I'm going to get out of here, man. Thanks for chilling with us, and we had a good time today on the show. I had fun. Oh.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Well, I got some interesting information here. Gee, wonder what it says. Don't worry. It's a story. Maybe.
Well, this whole thing just highlights a point that I've raised multiple times on this live stream and probably on some of the pre-recorded episodes too, that, you know, people will tell themselves that they believe what the facts and evidence, you know, tell them to believe, or they believe what the facts and evidence bear out. That's a cop-out most of the time. For most people, it's just not true. They tell themselves that because they want to feel secure in what they believe. But how many times have you just gone back and forth with someone over something that you know you're objectively correct about? There is no in between. It's just like 2 and 2 makes 4. And they're like, no, 2 and 2 is 16. And you can go back and forth with them all day. And everything is on your side. But at the end of that conversation, their mind isn't changed. To them, 2 plus 2 is 16. It's because we don't believe what the facts and evidence tell us to believe. That's what we tell ourselves. People believe what they choose to believe. That is the bottom line. We all have to accept that about ourselves. Now, you can choose to believe the truth. What I want to believe is what is true, even if the truth hurts me. Wolf is the same way. Even if the truth is painful, like a dagger to the heart, it's there. It doesn't change for anyone.
I got breaking news.
Oh yeah.
So the IDP, which is Nick Valenti and Potato Head.
Yeah.
Potato Head changed the name of the group. Oh, there you go. I mean, he's been with them since the beginning. He was with Mike before, before Darkwing got involved. Well, there you go. So I guess him and Nick Valenti split. It's a civil war, folks. That's what it is. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. We asked you to leave me, Bettina, and Abe, and Hellbent Holler. We all asked you to leave us alone. You were trolling Blondes and Booze. You were trolling Tex. You were trolling BMR. You were trolling everybody. We asked you to leave us alone. You got me and Jessica to fight. And you did. You did. You came to me with false information. Multiple accounts. I know you did. Did all kinds of horrible things, and then this guy comes in, and I'm going to be the pimp daddy. I'm going to help him. For what? Why?
Pimp Daddy Kane.
And it wasn't about the V-Man. It was about me the whole time. These people have been plotting this for a long time, folks. But you know what? They can't do what we can do. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to network with people. I promise you, none of them will ever make a successful conference like mine. You can make one. They could get a bunch of rootless goofballs to go and just go sit around in their trucks and drink beer and,
They're going to have ourselves a hootenanny.
Yeah, you can go and do whatever you want. Have a block party or whatever and call it I mean, you could take a biscuit and call it a steak. It's still a biscuit. So you can do what you want. But they're not going to do what we did. They're not going to duplicate it, and they can't write. That's why they hate books. They hate books. They've said they hate authors. 2 of them have said that. Now, what does that tell you? You don't like authors? Why? One of them claims he is an author and has nothing to show for it, and says he's got comic books and all kinds of stuff. I don't know who the hell would read yours. I mean, why would you read garbage like that?
Reading ain't never done nothing for nobody.
That's what my illiterate grandfather always said.
Mm-hmm. And books ain't going to teach you jack squat.
But it has brought some people together with me that I wasn't even friends with before this. And it's brought people that I was sort of kind of like whatever, and they turned out to be okay people. They were leery of me because of the company I kept. You know how many people I became friends with overnight by just denouncing these fools? I'm not talking about Ike. Everybody already hated him, but I'm talking about them other ones. Telling people the truth. And I told the truth today on my Facebook. I told you, D, I told you the truth of what your buddy did. He backed me off from helping you, which now I know was a blessing in disguise because he wanted to be the only guy to help you. It's the truth. It's the absolute truth, the unadulterated truth. My hand on a Bible. He told me not to help you. Well, wait, let's wait and see. And then he was already over there helping you. And I was like, good. I'm glad because I didn't want to be a part of any of that. But I wanted to help you at first because I didn't know the whole story. I'm not your enemies. Your enemies, that's the enemy. And it's not even really people. It's a spirit of evil. It's pervasive. It's like They breathe it in their lung. It goes into their. It comes out of their pores. To exercise those demons that those people have, those attachments, it would have to take. It's not something you and I folks can do. We can pray, but it's going to take divine intervention to get rid of that. There's some people that are born a certain way. I'm telling you this. They don't want you to believe this because they're not going to tell you the truth, but they're beyond redemption. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen it a million times. These people are born beyond redemption. They will not be redeemed. They cannot be redeemed. That's it. So the people that are going to be in the light, let's go to the light. Those that want to dwell in the darkness, that want to swim in those waters, you continue to swim in those murky waters. Continue to follow false people. Hey, Mike Turner, how you doing? You just showing up? Yes, facing the crowd, Machiavellian. That's very correct. That is absolutely right. Penny Van says, I spent a lifetime making mistakes, but at least I try and also try to keep myself educated. Mike Hitchcock says, has there been any stories tonight, guys? Are you being facetious, dude? Or did you just show up really late? Because we told stories for about 2.5 hours. If not longer. I know it was might longer, 2 hours, 40 minutes, something like that.
I didn't see him earlier. He probably just showed up.
Okay. As long as I'm not putting up with any back talk, any smart mouth talking, starting it, I don't care. Whatever. We're not putting up with it. It's like Bettina did on her show the other day. Just that's it. My team, Hellbent Holler and their team, Bettina and her team, you know, I can speak for these people. I'm going to tell you right now, none of us, we talked the other day, none of us are just zero tolerance right now. We've all been through the ringer, you know, and they're talking about we made women cry. You made Bettina cry Saturday. I'm sorry, Bettina, for saying that, but you know, it's the truth, and I'm damn tired of it. Me and Anthony had to talk to her. She's so sick to her stomach. My wife, sick to her stomach. You want to talk about scaring women? What about your ex, D? What about her? What about the V-Man giving you that information that she gave him and only him? Quit feeling sorry for this guy and see what he's about. All of you in this chat, if you're listening to me, if you know him, and I know one person that I know that you know him, if you know him and you know how he is, then I'm telling you the truth. If you don't believe me, then go. Because he put somebody's life in jeopardy.
There's even a channel on YouTube. It's a small channel, but it's there. And the only videos that are there are videos exposing and addressing D-Devil's past deeds. And it's called The Adjudicator, all right? Just type in The Adjudicator on YouTube. It's a channel. Type in the Adjudicator and then type in D-Devil's name. And that channel will pop up. And it shows text message conversations. It shows it plays phone calls.
Don't even talk about it. Let them find out on their own.
So yeah.
You know, and then this guy, and I asked her, I said, is there any other way? Nope. He was the only one. You tell me he's not a backstabber.
He even sent a message saying, oh, how about I chop off that other hand or something like that? Like, what? What are you talking about? Chop off your girlfriend's hand.
And then you talk about accepting my challenge. Now, you waited until after I was advised against it, which I'm getting really tired of being told things. I don't want to be told. Waiting for you to make the move, man. You want to sue me? Come sue me. That's what I'm waiting on. It's a lot harder to play offense than it is defense. I'm waiting.
Matter of fact, I'm going to link that channel in the chat.
Do what you got to do. No, we're not doing that.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Do what you got to do. Go look it up, whatever. I don't want to be, after tonight, We'll see how everything shakes out from now until Friday. You watch how many attacks we get. You watch, because it never ends. It never stops. These people are going to keep doing what they're doing because they don't know how to stop. They don't know how. Keep believing that this guy is not a turncoat. I don't give a crap what you believe. Don't believe it, whatever. But when we can finally get to a place where we don't have to address it, we don't have to deal with it, then we'll be where we need to be. Until then, it's there and it looms large. Because people that are telling us, oh, you should just ignore it and whatever, you're not going through what we're going through. Shut up. Don't tell me. If that's your advice to me, don't give it to me. Because I will never be your friend again. Ever. Ever. I don't care. I don't care. He thinks he's playing some kind of game. He half admitted his threat on there, saying that I committed blackmail. Shut up. Shut your swamp ass. Shut up. You're all reprobates, and you know you are. Do some research on these people, folks. Okay, the real names are out there. I don't got to lay it out there for you. Go look them up and go figure it out. You'll figure it out. If people quit being lazy and willfully ignorant, that would be the end of it. Simple as that. Folks, I got to go. We'll be back on Friday. We got a guest coming on Friday, and he's going to talk about some interesting things. Thank you to everybody who donated. We appreciate it. Donations are not expected, but they are appreciated, and we definitely could use them to keep the show going and various other things we got to do. But thank you so much for showing up. Okay, and please tell everybody about our show. Thank you and good night. Like and subscribe.